Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another edition of a live commentary live stream on the channel today. The NASCAR Xfinity Series Alsco Uniforms 300 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a big Memorial Day Monday event. Yes, Monday, because both the NASCAR Xfinity Series and Cup Series have gotten rained out the last 2 days, so we are running on a Monday with a doubleheader, with the Xfinity race starting here in a matter of moments, followed by the Cup Series race shortly thereafter. They are on the warm-up lap as of right now. The race has not yet started, so I am a little late to the stream, but not late to the race. We are in time. I think they will be going green this time by. The race is on Fox Sports 1 for anybody wondering. As of right now, it does look like there's some raindrops on the lens of a couple of the drivers on the parade laps, with the dash cams are showing Sammy Smith currently on FS1 as of right now, so that is why we have not yet gone green. The lights are out on the pace car. Justin Allgaier qualified on the pole on Friday night, with John Hunter Nemechek starting in the second place position. Row 2 for this one will be Ty Gibbs and Cole Custer. Row 3 will be Brandon Jones, Justin Haley in the 10 car, taking over for Kyle Busch, who was originally supposed to run that colleague Chevrolet. Sheldon Creed and Sam Mayer in row 4, with row 5 being Jeb Burton and Chandler Smith. And they have added at least one more pace lap to this one, so we'll keep going through the starting lineup here. Daniel Hemrick, Brett Moffitt will be in row number 6 for this one. Riley Herbst and Josh Berry will start in row 7. Row 8 will be Carson Hocevar making another Xfinity start in the 77 today, with Anthony Alfredo to his outside in row 8. Row number 9 will be Austin Hill and Sammy Smith. Rajah Caruth and Parker Kligerman will be in row number 10. Row number 11 will be Kyle Weatherman and Stephen Parsons. Row 12, Joe Graff Jr., Kyle Sieg, Connor Mosack, and Dawson Cram will be in row 13. Row 14, Jeremy Clements and Garrett Smithley, with Josh Williams and Ryan Ellis in row 15. Row 16 will be Brendan Poole and Kaz Grala making a deep starting position for that Hunt. I almost said Hunt Brothers Pizza for the Sam Hunt Racing 2016. Oh, come on. There we go. Row 17 will be Natalie Decker making another Xfinity start this season. Patrick Emmerly to her outside. Blaine Perkins in the 0-2 again this week, with Ryan Sieg starting deep in the field as well in row 18. The rounding out the 38-car field in row 19 will be Parker Retzlaff and Jeffrey Earnhardt. So that is your starting lineup for today's Alsco Uniforms 300. We have 900 miles of racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway today. This track's going to take on a lot of rubber over the next several hours. We got about a roughly 2 to 2.5 hour Xfinity race, followed by what is likely to be about a 3.5 to 4 hour Cup race later today. So a lot of streaming. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. As usual, as we have live commentary streams on the channel for every NASCAR Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series race. Thanks to everybody who came out yesterday afternoon for the live commentary of the 107th running of the Indianapolis 500. I went to upload some highlights from that race yesterday, but they all got copyright claim before I could even upload them, so unfortunately I was not able to upload any of the highlights from yesterday's live commentary stream, but that stream itself is still up, of course. I didn't show any of the race, so those didn't get copyrighted at all. So you can go back through, maybe skip to certain points in the race if you want to hear some of my commentary of, say, maybe the last 15 laps or so. But needless to say, they're still adding more pace laps, it looks like, to the start of this Xfinity Series race at Charlotte. Again, there are raindrops on the dash of a lot of drivers. Very overcast skies at the Charlotte Motor Speedway today. It hasn't rained most of the morning, so hopefully we can get to racing here very shortly. They have taken the lights off the pace car again at the start-finish line this time by, so hopefully they will be going green. They've given them the 1-to-go signal. This is now the 3rd time they have done so, so we'll see if we'll actually stay through with it. The Cup Series crowd was a sellout for what was supposed to be last night's race. Hopefully most of that crowd is able to stay the extra day. With it being a holiday weekend, it may be possible that they could have a pretty good crowd on hand for the 600. That scheduled start time is going to be about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. I'm not sure if they moved that race to FS1 or not, but it is at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, and we will go live for that at 2:30, or, of course, depending on about the time this race potentially gets done. We'll see if they let him loose this time by. Justin Allgaier has elected the inside lane for the start of this race. Got to go all the way back to Friday night. Was the last race at Charlotte for the weekend as the Truck Series ran all of their race, got all 200 miles in. There was no rain in the forecast on Friday night in the Concord, North Carolina area. And the pace car is pulling to pit road, so we will let them rip this time by. Justin Allgaier will lead the field into the Geico restart zone. The green flag is in the air, and the second of 3 races at Charlotte Motor Speedway Memorial Day weekend is underway. The Xfinity Series is racing at Charlotte. As the field lets loose into turns 1 and 2, Justin Allgaier is going to be able to pull clear with ease, side by side for second in a battle between Ty Gibbs of the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing this weekend, as well as his teammate John Hunter Nemechek, who was on the outside. We saw the middle to upper groove work out pretty well in turns 1 and 2 in the truck race the other night. We'll see if that will be the same in the Xfinity Series today. Gibbs hanging it down on the double white line on the inside of the racetrack, 3 and nearly 4 wide in the middle of turns 3 and 4 around the 16 car, as well as the 11 of colleague Chevrolets in the mix. Sam Mayer is there, as well as Riley Herbst. Brett Moffitt in the 25 car in the mix as well, all battling for the 8th place position. 3 wide again off the exit of turn 2. Sam Mayer got put in the middle. Anthony Alfredo whipped around him on the outside of the racetrack, able to pull clear with ease, and then he gets split 3 wide middle again going into turn 3 as Sammy Smith in the 21 of Austin Hill will get by as well. Those 2 cars remain side by side of Hill and Smith, while Mayer holds in line behind them and has lost about 5 positions in the last lap or so. Justin Allgaier has led the first 2 laps of the race at the start-finish line and has grown his lead out to about a half a second just thereafter over John Hunter Nemechek. Ty Gibbs remains in the 3rd place position. Brandon Jones right behind him. Not quite a tight battle for the 3rd place position with his former teammate in the Xfinity Series. Austin Hill going to pull clear. Contact off the exit of turn 4 between Anthony Alfredo and the 18, actually, of Sammy Smith. Smith caught the left rear corner panel of the 78 of Alfredo on the BJ McLeod Motorsports Chevrolet. Some light sprinkles still on the windshield of these cars, but they are letting it loose. I'm sure if the drivers start to radio into their spotters that, hey, maybe it's raining a little too hard, NASCAR could throw the caution flag, but as of right now, we are still racing. And to make this race official today, we have to get to the end of Stage 2, which is the shortest length, either the end of Stage 2 or the halfway point, is the rule to make the race official. And because the end of Stage 2 is before the halfway point, we will be racing to lap 90. Got 45 laps in Stage 1, 45 laps in Stage 2 today, and the final stage will be 110 for this Xfinity Series race. 300 miles, 200 laps the scheduled distance. So your top 5 in the early going of this race on lap 5 of 200 with 195 laps to go. Justin Allgaier has a 1.1 second lead over Ty Gibbs, who has now taken over 2nd place. John Hunter Nemechek, after sliding up the racetrack, is now in 3rd, 1.6 seconds off the lead. Brandon Jones is in 4th, 1.8 seconds back, and 2 seconds off the lead is Cole Custer in 5th. Wonder if maybe Nemechek hit a damp spot. Whatever the case was, he ended up sliding up the racetrack in the middle of turns 1 and 2 in that middle groove, so had to get out of the gas quickly to keep it up off the wall. Lost the position and lost a full second compared to the race leader of Justin Allgaier, as he ran a little bit slower than him that last time by once again as well. The dirty air now behind the 19 of Gibbs. Side by side between Custer and Brandon Jones as they battle for 4th. Custer has close into the 9 car, who can't quite keep up with the Joe Gibbs Toyotas in front of him for position. Jones holding the middle upper groove, trying to hold the 00 tightly on that blue and double white line on the inside of the track as Custer got loose off the exit of turn 2 and almost made contact with Jones. It works as a side draft as he keeps his foot in the throttle. Sheldon Creed now to the inside is going to try to challenge for the top 5 as well as he gets to the inside of Jones. Custer is clear for 4th. And it looks like Brandon Jones, for the time being, will hold on to 5th with the 2 car trying to side draft him down the front stretch. And now Daniel Hemrick's starting to close in on the battle as Brandon Jones is starting to fall backwards after moving to 4th early. Sheldon Creed will pull clear for 5th place off of turn 2. Daniel Hemrick is right in line behind him. Brandon Jones in the number 9 still remains in 6th for the time being. Both colleague Chevrolets behind him of Hemrick and Chandler Smith. A bit of a gap, though, between Hemrick and Smith on the racetrack. And Jeb Burton has cracked the top 10 here in the early going. How about a good run for Jeb in the 27 car for Jordan Anderson Racing? Has a win at Talladega already this season and is looking for another win potentially here today, or just a good finish would be a great job if he can get a top 10 on an intermediate track with that program. Riley Herbst has a hornet's nest around him of race cars. Carson Hocevar, Brett Moffitt, Austin Hill, Sammy Smith, and Sam Mayer all in the rearview mirror of Riley Herbst as they battle just outside the top 10. Actually, for the 10th place position is where Herbst is currently at as we round out lap number 9. It looks like the Xfinity Series cutting to a full-screen commercial break on Fox Sports 1. We'll go through that full-field running order here in the early going. Again, lap number 9 of 200. Justin Allgaier is the race leader. Ty Gibbs is second. He's 0.7 of a second off the lead and slightly closing in on this longer run on Allgaier. John Hunter Nemechek is in third. Cole Custer fourth. Sheldon Creed is fifth. Brandon Jones in sixth place. Daniel Hemrick seventh. Chandler Smith in eighth. Jeb Burton ninth. And Riley Herbst is 10th. Carson Hocevar in 11th. Brett Moffitt in 12th. Austin Hill in 13th. Sammy Smith 14th. And Anthony Alfredo is 15th. 16th place is Sam Mayer, Parker Kligerman in 17th, Kyle Weatherman 18th, Kaz Grell in 19th, and Ryan Sieg is 20th. Raja Karuth in 21st, Dawson Cramp 22nd, Ryan Ellis 23rd, Jeremy Clements is 24th, Connor Mosack 25th, Josh Berry 26th. 27th place is Justin Haley, Joe Graff Jr. 28th, Parker Kligerman 29th, and Stephen Parsons is 30th. Jeffrey Earnhardt in 31st, Patrick Emerling 32nd, Brendan Poole 33rd, 34th, Josh Williams, Kyle Sieg 35th, Garrett Smithley 36th, Natalie Decker 37th, and Blaine Perkins rounds out the 38-car field. All cars on the lead lap on lap 11 as of right now. Remember, Justin Haley started at the 10 car because it was a driver change. Kyle Busch was originally supposed to race that car with the race getting postponed to today. He will not be doing the Xfinity Cup double, so he is eligible for an extra Xfinity race still this season because he did not start this race. So it'll be interesting to see if he will end up in the car again before the end of the year because I think he has 1 or 2 more starts left still. At least 1, maybe 2. But, yeah, good run for Haley in the early going, getting his way up about 12, maybe 14 positions since the start. Still on a full screen commercial break as of right now. I think I put a poll in the chat yesterday, but it didn't stay up, or 2 days ago, I should say, but it didn't stay up. All YouTube channels are down? Let me know. Ice Demon King 92, Hammer, Jeff Sperry, Mark Witkowski, Chris Davis, Philip Moore, Rainer Martinez, Earl Arnold Jr., Dark Crypto, Patty and Rundy Creations, Weather Expert Gaming, and others. Welcome into the stream. We have just over 50 people watching, 34 likes already. Our goal is 100. Our goal is 100 for the Indy 500 yesterday. We ended up with over 210 likes on the stream, so I appreciate that. But let me know if the stream is working. YouTube is running fine here in the UK. Now, Chris Davis is saying every YouTube channel is down right now. Let me know in the chat. Keep me updated on if the stream keeps lagging. I may be able to try to fix it. As of right now, everything's running well on my end. KRC isn't down. Alright, well, if we do have some issues, yeah, definitely let me know. I'll try to monitor the chat as well as I can. Again, since moving to my apartment, as of right now, I'm actually having to watch the races on my phone. Usually, with the previous setup, I would have the race on my TV and then the chat on my phone so I can look at the chat throughout the course of the race, but I can't actually have the chat up because I have to have the leaderboard screen on my laptop, and I'm watching the race on my phone, so I can't have the chat on my phone, so I kind of have to flash back every now and then, so that's why you see me popping the chat up from time to time. Showing a replay on the commercial, Riley Herbst's race car all over the place. Losing position still as he is now falling outside the top 10. He's back to 14. Sam Mayer's battling him for position. There's quite a bit of raindrops on the dash of these race cars, but we are sticking with it. Still green. We haven't had a caution yet through the first 16 laps.
As a fan, I am shocked that the drivers are not complaining about the moisture. When you look at this in-car from Riley Herbst, they're having to clean that off constantly because of the buildup that is on this, but we haven't heard any complaints from any of the drivers right now about the track being wet, even though you see Riley has his hands full right now in turns 3 and 4.
Look at this battle for the lead. It's been heating up recently. Up high goes Gibbs.
Well, and he's going to have to get to the outside of the 7 car. He tried to work the bottom. Justin moved up, got in that traction compound, and found a little bit of speed. And I thought that was interesting because I talked to Justin earlier today, and he thought his strong suit, based on what he saw on Friday, was that he could run the bottom longer than others. But as Ty Gibbs tracked him down, he saw where he was running, and he moved up just one lane. But Ty's going to have to try to get to the outside of him in order to pass him. I don't think he'll be able to complete that on the bottom.
And look what's ahead. Lap traffic. How will this play out? Right to the bottom goes Garrett Smithley. And out of the way.
Well, those guys will be screaming for all that lap traffic to go to the bottom, knowing that they want to be a little bit higher on the track.
And we've got a competition caution that's just over a lap away, a couple of laps before we'll see it. And so that could change the way things play out here as well, because Gibbs is right there. He's bulldogging but not going away. And what's amazing is you look at the delta, John Hunter Nemechek's 4 seconds behind him, right? I mean, these two have absolutely checked out.
Well, you had to figure John Hunter Nemechek was one of our favorites as well, along with these two, Allgaier and Gibbs. So that competition caution might be just what John Hunter's looking for, make an adjustment, get this car handling a little bit better.
Well, and the fact that they've given them an extra set of tires because of that competition caution, that's a game changer for this series, because they're normally so limited on tires that they don't get to make all those adjustments. So when you do get to make one, you have to make sure you make the right decision.
Carson Hocevar, right of your screen in the 77. Man, has he been impressive early. Gets by Brandon Jones for 9th, and there is the competition caution.
Brandon Jones is thinking, let's just have a normal day. Run inside the top 10. Make something good happen today. They've had a tough start to this season.
Likely pit stops when we come back. Justin Allgaier is leading this thing.
So there you have it. Competition caution at lap 20 as scheduled for today's race. There will be a comp yellow during the Cup race later tonight as well. Cup Series mainly because no practice or qualifying. That was rained out Saturday, as well as the rain pushing the race to today. Green racetrack for the Xfinity Series. They did have practice and qualifying on Friday night before the Truck Series race, but they did not get any laps in as far as yesterday went for this race. So competition caution with the changing track conditions and having to wait an extra day. A lot of the teams actually were in the Charlotte area for most of the series, really, and not just the Xfinity Series, the Truck and the Cup as well. The Xfinity Series goes out west to Portland next week for a standalone event, while the Truck and the Cup Series head to Gateway in St. Louis. So because of that, they were sent home. They had the extra day off, so that way they can help get everything set up for their teams to make that West Coast trip next week, because you got to remember, they're racing on a Monday. They're only racing 5 days from now in Portland, so they have to travel from coast to coast, and they only have 5 days before the race, and they may have practice and qualifying on Friday. I'm not entirely sure if that's supposed to be Saturday morning before the Cup or before the Xfinity Series race, or if that's supposed to be Friday evening. So if it's Friday evening, they have to have the cars on the track in the next 4 days, so it's going to be tough. Early start time, of course, could help for today. They were supposed to start at noon, but it got bumped up an extra hour because now we have to get a Cup race in later as well. Pit stops are now happening for the first time during the caution.
Out of the 0-0, Cole Custer's running right now in fourth where he started. That car is tight landing for him. Just a little bit too free on exit. Wants an adjustment for the exit. And the leader of the number 7 car, Justin Allgaier, he's too free early on into the corners and late exit in the corners. Wants some right rear security right now. Josh?
Well, for the 19 of Ty Gibbs, he's a touch too tight on entry and center, then free on exit, complaining about the rain on the windshield for him. Same deal with John Hunter Nemechek. Told the team, I don't know what to tell you. I'm fired up way too tight. So some struggles with the 20, guys.
Pretty tight race off pit road. Looked like there was some contact as they were 3 wide around Allgaier, Creed, and Hemrick. Looks like Allgaier has lost a couple positions on pit road. The winner of the race out of the pits, it looks to be John Hunter Nemechek, I do believe, won the race off of pit road, gaining 2 positions. So it looks like the 20 car will be out in front. I believe Ty Gibbs was in second in the 19 car. So again, John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs were the first 2 out of pit road there during the pit stops. Our first set of pit stops today with the competition caution that came out at lap 20. Again, there have been raindrops on the racetrack. They actually ran a few extra pace laps at the start of today's race, trying to make sure the track was going to be clear enough to race. There was no I should say the best way to explain this is that I guess there wasn't any indication that it was severe enough or dampening the racetrack enough to throw any caution. They got the first 20 laps in caution-free before the comp yellow came out. Hopefully, there is enough heat in the racetrack with them having to go under yellow that maybe that could keep the track a little bit more dry, having the stoppage if the sprinkles start to heavy up a little bit or get a little bit heavier, then there may not be a chance that they can end up making it. It looks like John Hunter Nemechek actually he won the race out of the pits, but he'll be second on the restart, as I believe Ryan Sieg in the 39 had stayed out of the pits, so he will be the leader. So it looks like that 39 team going to save an extra set of tires the rest of this race. A little bit of strategy being played. We did see quite a bit of fall off in the truck race. Seemed like after about 15 laps there was a second of fall off. So I would imagine that would be the same, if not more, with the Xfinity Series having a little bit less downforce, slightly more horsepower than the trucks. We'll see if there will be even more tire fall off and how far back Sieg will drop, because he did start towards the tail end of the field, so he is getting track position, but I imagine he is not going to be able to hold on 20-lap older tires. And it'll be interesting to see who will be the first driver to get around him on the restart. I would imagine he may have troubles taking off and firing off out of the restart zone, and that could cause whatever lane he decides to restart in, whether that be the top or the bottom, based off the choose rule on whether or not they may stack up some cars behind them. So I would definitely not want to be in the lane behind him. Troy, thanks for tuning into the stream. Tyler Burback, Colton Thompson, Kyle Lance, Diana Alves, Joshua Brady, also welcome into the stream. Two Dogs, thanks for tuning in. 1,000 horsepower next gen, welcome to the stream also. So thanks for everybody tuning in. Yeah, double duty today. The NASCAR Xfinity Series with an 11 a.m. start time. Shortly after that, again, they ran a couple extra parade laps because of some light sprinkles in the area. They have raced through it up to this point. 900 miles of NASCAR racing today, 300 in the Xfinity race, and then the longest NASCAR Cup race of the season, 600 miles in the second Crown Jewel event of the year since the Daytona 500, of course. So big race. Remember, there are extra points on the line in the Cup race. There are 4 stages with it being the longest race of the season, so there's an extra 10 points to be had for the top 10 finishers, and each stage will be split up 100 laps at a time, so it's basically broken down into 150-mile segments throughout the course of the action. But again, that will be the Cup race later. We are still in Stage 1 in this Xfinity Series race. The end of Stage 1 is lap 45. By the time we go green, we're going to have right around 20 laps to go in the stage, which will be a similarly long green flag run as we had leading to the comp yellow from the drop of the green flag that kicked this thing off. If you see me keep getting up, by the way, it's because I'm blowing my nose. My allergies have been absolutely terrible today. I played golf earlier this morning, and it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one. This whole weekend for me, allergy-wise, has been pretty bad, but today it feels like it's a little bit worse. I was fine until I took a step outside, and that was a big mistake. So you might hear a little bit more of the race broadcast here for an hour or so before my allergies start to settle down now that I'm inside. It looks like they are bringing the cars onto pit road right now, as maybe the mist/sprinkles have gotten just a little bit heavier, and we may be going under a red flag period.
A little too heavy, and you could really see that precipitation building up on the windshield of these cars, and the track feeling the impact as well.
It was shocking to me that the drivers weren't complaining about that, but I think, like everyone watching at home, anyone that's been at the racetrack the last 2 days, we're all trying to get it in. Everyone's like, nope, it's fine, it's not going to be a problem. But once they slow down, you can see the track change colors, and as you look at that in-car camera, I mean, it's not necessarily raining, it's just still that kind of heavy mist right now.
It was the heaviest mist I ever felt yesterday. It just felt thick in the air, and today that's returned for a bit. You know, you mentioned it, Adam. Ryan Sieg stayed out under that competition caution. He had driven from last to 20th, so that's a fast number 39. So take a break here. Enjoy leading this race while the showers persist.
Well, and you go back to, there's a baseline there, because you can compare him to the other drivers that dropped to the rear, among them Josh Berry, who won this race last year, and he was in front of Josh, of those drivers coming from the back. So not only did he make up a bunch of positions in that first run of the race, but he was better than some of those other cars that started back there.
I don't quite understand the strategy there. If you've got a car that's that good, don't get off sequence with the leaders right now. It's early in the race. Stay on there and try to build up just being on that same sequence. If we get a longer run here, it's just going to get you behind.
the racing here at Charlotte is always good, and then maybe you had a little mist and slickens things up, and it really gets entertaining. But what we saw early on, there were some moments, huh?
Yeah, you see, we talked about Carson Hocevar running the top. John Hunter Nemechek, he had a couple of big moments right there.
There was a clip from Sheldon Creed to the back of Moffitt as Moffitt went for a slide. Moffitt's been the guy that's really kept that high line swept off.
And what, Michael, what you don't know is that the track is green. We haven't run on it. It's kind of misty, and from inside the car, you're like, is my balance just this far off, or is it because the track's wet right now? A lot of unknowns for all those guys out there.
Yeah, a couple of guys said their cars were feeling sketchy, and they're wondering, like Jamie said, is it the weather, or is it my car?
Is it us, or is it the weather?
And then you go on board here with Sammy Smith, and you think about it from his perspective. He's never been here. In fact, he's got limited experience at mile and a half in general in the Xfinity Series, so this is totally new for him.
Sammy's there beating at 106. Where are you, Jamie? You know right now?
No, I have no idea. I want to play along, but I don't know. Adam, we were down in the garage earlier talking, and everyone just has so many positive things to say about Sammy Smith and his learning curve and how he's just like a sponge right now.
Let's ask him about that.
You better hurry up.
hey, Sammy, before you take your radio off, can you hear me? It's Waltrip and the Fox guys.
Yeah, 10 for I got you.
That was
He's
a
like,
close
damn, I almost got
Under the
away.
wire.
Heart rate at 108. I would assumed it would have been more when you're out there running, but how did the rain feel, and how much anxiety did that cause you as you were racing out there?
Yeah, those last couple laps started getting pretty slick. I thought we were making pretty good progress, and then the pit crew had a really good stop there to get some track position. So disappointed we can't get going here, but hopefully it clears up.
We're hoping the same. Up to 116 now, talking to me. I guess that's pretty anxiety felt also, huh?
Yeah, getting a little nervous talking to you, Mikey.
Man, I appreciate your time. We'll have a bit of a break here and go back to racing. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, guys.
I get nervous every time I talk to you on TV too, but it's totally different than what he's talking about. Talking about drivers that have delivered early. Brett Moffitt's been solid in that 25, drove it up inside the top 10. Josh, what's happening on pit road?
Well, down here with John Hunter Nemechek just got out of the car, so what were you feeling out there with the conditions, and how's the car? Can you get a read on it when it's like this?
I knew kind of what our car had to fire off there before it started missing too bad, and then those last few laps I felt like it kept getting slicker and slicker and kept coming down a little bit harder, but overall I feel like we have a fast Mobil 1 Toyota GR Supra. We gotta make a few adjustments to get it as fast as Xfinity 10G, but looking forward to the rest of the race. Hopefully this clears up and we can get going, but until then you have Jamie Mack in the booth with his perfect hair. I still don't know how he does it, so enjoy him.
How does this affect your approach the rest of the way, having this delay here, however long it takes?
I'm going to go look at some data from the two guys that were in front of us on that run and kind of see where I was getting beat. Who knows what's going to happen if we go racing again, if the race gets shortened, or I feel like there's so many wild cards and unknowns out there with this, for dealing with this for the past 3 days. But overall, it's a great day, Memorial Day. Want to remember those who have sacrificed their lives and for our freedom and for this country. So thank you to all the men and women who have served and given their lives and who continue to serve.
Thanks, John Hunter. I'm sure Jamie Mack appreciated what you said about his hair. Regan?
Justin Allgaier out of his race car already as well. Justin, smooth sailing on the racetrack at the start of that race for you, leading every lap under green so far. Coming down pit road, though, a little bit of a hiccup there. We saw the contact on pit road. Is it anything to worry about?
I don't know if it's anything to worry about, but just frustrated. Made a little bit of mistake there. I had it in my head to go through the OA box instead of the OA being in front of me. And just mistimed getting into the box, which obviously put our pit crew behind, right? You jam them in, and they don't allow them to do their job. And, the Sheldon's crew chief came over, apologized, said he cleared him out all the way to the grass when we were obviously out there. And, it's disappointing to obviously be out front like that and then to have something like that happen on pit road. But I got the best team on pit road, and I know that no matter what we need to do, we'll get it fixed up. And, obviously the name of the game now is to try to go back forward. And we got a really fast race car. Our Camaro is super fast. to have, defense commissary agency on the car and to have Ron Kennedy parachute team on the car. They can't be back here today. They're actually flying to Normandy to do some stuff next week to jump during D-Day. So I was disappointed not to have them here, but we want to get them to victory lane, and we're going to keep trying.
You talk about that fast race car out front. It appeared everything was going your way. Is there anything that you need to do to it right now to make it even faster yet?
Well, I mean, obviously the track conditions are what they are. The mist was actually really coming down pretty hard at the end there, so you're kind of sliding around and you don't really know how far to adjust on the car. That's the hardest part. If it dries up completely, you don't want to obviously go too far on the adjustment. So, Jim Pullman and I did a lot of conversation there under caution. I think we can have some more conversation here, under this red flag and make good adjustments. But I think it's going to change a lot. I think the top's going to come in a little bit, but I think it's still cool enough the bottom still prevails. So, we'll see what happens. But like I said, we got a really fast race car. We're not gonna hang our heads right now. We got the longest race of the year, and we can go forward.
Good luck the rest of the day. Thanks, Justin. Josh?
Here with Cole Custer. From that early run, what feel did you get from the car out there?
I thought we were solid. Probably need an adjustment or two to get up there with the 19 and the 7, but I thought we were solid. So I think we have a solid 3D Systems Ford Mustang. It's just a matter of getting that a little bit more. But looked like a 7 and the 2 hit us on pit road there, so we might have to fix the crush panel and come back in. It might cut the tires, so that sucks. I don't want to come from the back, but we don't want to cut a tire and ruin our whole day. So we'll be coming from the back and hopefully make it a show.
How does this impact the rest of your day? You talked about the damage, but just the weight and how long this takes.
Yeah, it was sketchy that first run. You couldn't really see much, and you're being a little bit conservative just because you don't want to wreck in the first 20 laps. But it was a little sketchy. But hopefully, get this moves out of here. It doesn't show like it should rain the rest of the day, so hopefully it moves out of here quick.
Thanks, Cole. Regan?
Sheldon Creed out of his race car as well as everybody is at this point. You just walked up to me. I said, how was the race car? Said a little bit slippery. How hairy was that for you guys?
Yeah, I thought it started okay, and then just a small drizzle. I thought it got slicker and slicker as we went through that run. I was hesitant to move around. Usually I try to move around right away, and once I moved up and I got into him, so never like to run into people on pit road. So hopefully we can go and have a strong rest of our day when this clears up a little bit and hopefully get this wheeling car out front.
You mentioned the contact on pit road and that you had gotten cleared all the way out to the grass. How surprised were you when you guys had that contact, and anything on your car to worry about now?
I don't think so. We just barely bumped. Our spotter pretty much calls us into the box, and our crew chief calls you out of the box. So Jeff, I think, just thought that I was going to get out, and maybe pit road just being a little wet, I just wasn't able to get going as fast as normal. It happens. Hate to do that to Justin. They have a really fast car today, but I think they'll be all right, and they'll be fast the rest of the day.
All right, good luck the rest of the day. Thanks. Josh?
Brett Moffitt running just outside the top 10 before that comp caution. How do you feel about what you got from that early run?
I feel really good. We ended up starting, I believe, in 10th just due to a couple guys dropping to the back. And when the caution came out, we were up to 8th, I believe. So we got a really fast airbox, AM Technical Solutions Ford Mustang, and just need to get it back going here. Hopefully we can get the long runs in. I like the way the track is already widening out. I felt like we were one of the first ones to really get up by the fence, and that's where we made a lot of ground. So I'm sure everyone will adapt and move up as well, but for the time being, it's a really great start for us.
When you look at the season as a whole, obviously you guys are building something there, but how do you feel about where you guys are?
Yeah, it's a first year team. Essentially, it's a brand new race team. I know they've been around in the trucks before, which gave us a good starting point. But it's a lot of new guys, all new cars, a whole new series for AM Racing, and week in and week out we see improvement. It doesn't always show up in results, unfortunately, so that's frustrating. But we inside the race team internally, we see the progress we're making, we see the changes we're making and how they're positively affecting the whole program, and we're just going to keep plugging away. Preseason I had the mindset of first third of the season is getting to know each other, try not to make big mistakes. Second part of the season's get our race cars faster and more competitive week in, week out, and the last third of the season's all about execution, so we're right on pace for that in my mind.
Thanks, Brett. Regan?
Riley Herbst up 3 positions from where he started the race in 13th, up to 10th place right now in the top 10. You said, though, it's been an eventful start to this race for you.
Yeah, it's wild with the 20 laps and the competition caution, and I don't know if the weather knows what it's doing, if it's misting, if it's raining, but hopefully we can get back going here. I feel like we'll have a pretty strong Monster Energy number 98 car, and honestly, it's going to be kind of wild because I don't know if you're going to want to run the bottom, top, middle, what this resin's going to do with all these jet dryers on it and the jet fuel. So I'm excited. Hopefully we can get back going in the right direction this year and score some good stage points today.
You mentioned going back in the right direction. You guys were so strong early on this year, rolling off great runs every week, it seemed like. Now all of a sudden we've gotten into this little lull as the season goes on. How important is it to get that turned around right now?
It's vital important, not only for myself, my confidence, but the team's confidence. We know we have really fast race cars. We know everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing is doing a really good job, and we're doing the same things we did the first 6 weeks. It's just kind of how the dice is rolling right now with some racing luck and some mistakes on my end the last couple weeks. So we'll clean all that up, hopefully have a pretty flawless day on pit road and execute well on the racetrack on my end and score good points and get away with the top 10 and head to Portland.
I like the dice is rolling comment from a Vegas guy. That was nice. Josh?
Over here, Parker Kligerman demanded an interview because you're really happy with what you got in the car right now.
Yeah, we worked on this thing as much as you possibly could after practice and the qualifying. You know, this Spike Core Chevy was not there in practice qualifying, but once we went to the top up there, we were turning top 3 lap times, flying through the field there. Then the competition caution came out. I thought, all right, let's just keep going. Like I don't want to stop this. I think if we would have kept going, we would have driven easily in the top 10, top 5. So really proud of Patrick Donahue, Cody McKenzie, everyone on this number 48 Big Machine Racing car. You know, we've been that little bit off. We need to see the light a little bit with those changes, but we did, and I just want to get racing again. Like, this thing was awesome to drive up next to the wall. It had a ton of speed. It was, even with the rain where you couldn't really see at all, you know, we were still flying and going really fast. So I just want to say hi to our owner, Scott Borchetta. I know he's watching back there. We're good. We had a little slow stop, but we'll come back to the field. We got the speed to do it.
When you look at the season as a whole and where you guys are now, I know you've had some ups and some downs, but how are you feeling about what you got the rest of the way?
You know, I said before the race, and I told the team, we went to lunch this week, and just my message was, look, this month is a huge opportunity for us. I think this place is a big one for us that I've always enjoyed going to. They've had, you know, the cars have been faster in the past, so I feel like this was a good start, but then you look at Portland, you look at Sonoma, road courses, I'm like, all right, these are big opportunities. And I think our whole race team has been putting the effort knowing that, right? And you just want to sort of get a little positive momentum here, go to some places we really think we can go out there and be dominant, and I really think we can. So I'm looking forward to getting to the West Coast. You know, we've had some ups and downs, but we've had a lot of positives, and I think we're very close to breaking through.
Lance Parker. Regan?
Josh Berry, one of the biggest movers of the race so far, up 13 spots. That's a big part because you had to go to the back to start this race. I know you mentioned on the pace laps you had a problem with the power steering in practice. What was that, and how much of a problem was it with what was going on handling in practice?
Yeah, no, it's hard to say. But yeah, we had an issue. We found Saturday morning all the fluid had leaked out of the power steering. So, I mean, obviously you could say that it was on the tires or something like that. But I don't know. Overall, we just ran it out of the system out of oil, so we were concerned about the pump and all, and just changed it all to just try to be safe to make sure we didn't have any issues. So everything feels fine now. Our car is still loose, so I guess it wasn't the oil. So we're gonna just keep working on it here. Made some decent progress and see what we can do the rest of this race.
Good news is your car's been consistent. Loose. Bad news is it is loose. As we talk about the rest of this race, obviously we're going to go through some significant track changes right now. You won this race a year ago, much different conditions. How much of a challenge is that from the seat to adjust to what you think the track's going to go to later?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot different than what we had last year. Obviously much cooler and overcast. It was raining pretty good at the end of that run, so we've had to dial her back a little bit there just to keep the Tire Pro Chevy in one piece. But yeah, no, it's just gonna be a challenge. Obviously, I think we would all love. I mean, everybody here, right, within a 50-mile radius, would love for the sun to come out right about now. So all us drivers and teams feel the same way. We want to get this race going. Thanks to all these fans that stuck it out here to watch this race in today, and you know, we'll just see what happens. Hopefully the sun can come out, we can make some adjustments and get this 8 car as fast as Xfinity 10G.
Good luck the rest of the day. I'm still trying to figure out what the sun is. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, it's a lost cause for sure at this point, but man, I was optimistic about today, that it was going to clear out, but it will. It just take a little more time.
Thanks, Josh. Josh?
Over here with Justin Haley, originally not supposed to do the double. Now you're doing 900 miles today. So what's the last 24 hours been like for you?
Hopefully 900 miles. That's the goal. Yeah, I'm not really sure why I'm out here, but just thankful to be driving this number 10 LA Golf Chevrolet Camaro. Felt pretty good there. I mean, it was obviously raining a good bit, but man, it's tough to hop back in an Xfinity car at a mile and a half. I haven't done this in over a year and a half at a mile and a half, so It's been tough, but I feel like we're decent. And I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, I'm not in my own seat. I'm in Kyle's seat, obviously, and me and Kyle aren't really the same size. So I'm sliding around a little bit out there, but having a lot of fun. I mean, these Xfinity cars are a blast to drive, and I'm excited to get back to it here in a second and hopefully drive to the front.
Did you get a read on what you need out there, even with the rain coming down?
I felt like I was in a spaceship there for a while. I mean, I can't explain enough how different an Xfinity car is from a Cup car these days, and especially, like I said, just getting used to the tires and the truck arms and everything. It's a lot, but at the end of the day, it's still a race car, and you're going to drive as fast as you can. So, we'll see. Hopefully, we can get racing. I feel like I've been running in the rain or sitting in the rain for a while. What would be really bad is if it got called off, and then we ran the Cup car, and then we got back in the Xfinity car later. I'd be all messed up. But like I said, thanks to Matt Collick for calling me last night and wanting me to drive his race car. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Justin. Good luck the rest of the way. Guys?
It's been a good year for Collick in the Xfinity Series. 3 wins, 2 in that 10 car, courtesy of A.J. Allmendinger and Kyle Larson. Let's go back, and we heard some interviews. Sheldon Creed, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer talking about the incident on pit road and the contact. Walk me through this, fellas.
Well, when you come in as a leader, you feel like you're going to do a good job getting on pit road. And when we talk about the importance of pit stops, I know we think about the pit crew, but you getting stopped on your sign, the timing for those tire changes, they have a certain mark that they want you to stop on, so they're in the right place. And when you throw that off, it messes up the whole sequence. You see also, Michael, he's a little bit too close to the wall, so now the jack man's having a hard time getting the car jacked up. And the reason this pit stop is so important is because the sequence of events that now happens. He has a bad pit stop, so it's going to affect him, but as he exits pit road, you see Cole Custer's on his outside. Sheldon Creed gets into it. Cole Custer's done nothing wrong in all this, Michael, but now we think he might have to come down pit road and work on his car because of a mistake that Justin Allgaier feels like he made getting in his pit stall.
Yeah, he slid through. And Jamie, we know how hard these pit crews practice. Hours and hours all week long, choreographing the stops perfectly. And when you mess it up as a driver, it just hurts your heart.
Oh, you could tell he was so frustrated with himself, right?
Yeah, you just want to do perfect stops so the boys can do their job and get those 13, 14-second pit stops and get you back out in the lead. And he just sort of feels like he let his team down with that stop.
100%. And if you have to come around somebody, or if there's a tire on pit road that you have to come around, you know that's going to be an issue. But when you come in as a leader, you're expected to come in, stop on your pit stall, and be in the right place. And I think that's why you saw him so frustrated.
In his defense a bit, it was damp down there, so you got to take that into consideration. But the pit road was a little bit damp, and he just overestimated the grip he was going to have stopping in his box.
He was pitting midway down pit road. Number 1 pit stall, John Hunter Nemechek drives out, and he was the best of the bunch. So what he lost on that opening run, he got back on pit road. Ryan Sieg stayed out there. He's the race leader. Red flag is out as the mist continues in Charlotte.
A misty late morning at the Charlotte Motor Speedway so far. Let you guys listen into a bunch of those interviews with some of your favorite NASCAR Xfinity Series drivers. For the time being, we are under red flag. Currently, we are sitting at lap 25 of 200, so very early into this race. We got to the competition caution at lap 20 without any cautions for incident before the rain started to pick up. It was kind of misting on the parade laps before the start of this race, and they had a couple extra parade laps just to make sure the track was dry enough to race. It was. They were able to get it in, but then once the competition caution came out, cars were on pit road, they were running slower speeds, they were going to space out. There wasn't as much heat in the racetrack to try to keep the track dry, so they kind of started to lose the racetrack. They couldn't get back to green flag conditions, so they pulled the cars onto pit road, and that's where we're at right now with this red flag. Again, 25 laps in. Under the red flag period, currently your top 10, Ryan Sieg is the race leader. He stayed out of the pits during the caution, so he'll have an extra set of tires left to the end of the race, depending on how cautions play out the rest of the way. John Hunter Nemechek is in second after winning the race off pit road. Ty Gibbs is third. Cole Custer fourth. Sheldon Creed is fifth. Justin Allgaier is in sixth place. He was the leader when the comp caution came out, but he ended up losing 4 spots technically on pit road because Sieg had stayed out. So 4 spots lost for Justin there, slow stop. A little contact with Sheldon Creed coming out of the pits as well when Creed swung out of his box, but luckily nothing major damage-wise on either one of those two Chevys. Daniel Hemrick sits in 7th right now. Chandler Smith is 8th. Sammy Smith 9th. And Riley Herbst is 10th. So, keeping an eye on the chat as much as I possibly can. I'll let you guys listen to some more driver interviews as we get those during the rain delay period. We had quite a few of them right there, really. We probably had 10 interviews since the red flag has happened so far. They interviewed Sammy. Let me look at the leaderboard just to make sure I know who they interviewed. They first interviewed Sammy Smith, and then in no particular order after that, I know they interviewed Sheldon Creed, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, John Hunter Nemechek, I think, was the first one. After Sammy Smith, Riley Herbst they got to talk to. They talked to Justin Haley, Josh Berry, so they talked to quite a few drivers. Still might get a couple more drivers are at their race cars still, I do believe, because remember, the NASCAR Cup Series race is supposed to start at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I'm not sure what the call will be here from NASCAR, if that race will still start at 3, even if this race is under a rain delay. I did check the weather as soon as they went to the rain delay when I first let you guys listen into the Fox booth during the red flag period, and there's no rain on the radar at all, so it's literally a light enough sprinkle that it's not even popping up on the radar. Now, as of right now, they are pulling the covers off the race car, so maybe we'll get back to racing here shortly.
You can see
Fondell Ellery also welcome to the stream. Daniel Kyle Busch fan, welcome in as well.
Caution, the mist picked up here at Charlotte, so they decided to put out the red flag, but we are closing on being ready to go one more time. I like this.
You got that right,
There
Adam.
you go.
Visibly, you can see the skies are brightening a bit. Things are looking more positive, and the track is dry. The drivers are going to go out there and get a feel for it, and if the mist holds off, we will go back racing shortly. How'd you like that call?
I like the idea of getting the cars back out there. I think that will help drive the track and get those guys back in the right gear. Look, it was all those guys talked about how heavy the mist was, but they were able to race. So if we can get it started again, hopefully be caution free for a while and get some laps in.
We get to race 900 miles today. How about that?
Let's put that in perspective. 900 miles from Charlotte Motor Speedway. If you're driving, you could get to Key West.
That's your favorite vacation spot, right, Adam?
Yeah. You can do round trip to Pittsburgh or Nashville. Get up to Boston. St. Louis, where we're going next week.
Yeah, we can get a head start.
You ever driven 900 miles in a day? No, zero chance, right?
I drove 800 here one day.
I did too, with you actually.
We were in that in that race.
That's right.
That was in the fall, and we had a rain out, ran both Cup and Xfinity on the same day.
If I remember correct, after the Cup race, I looked fresh, and Michael didn't.
Well, you're quite the athlete, Amy, and so everybody knows that you're a marathon runner, a triathlete.
If I remember correct, you were a marathon runner at that time as well.
Well, I remember so vividly racing that morning in the Xfinity car, and then going to the bus and spending 3 or 4 hours just trying to get myself freshened up and ready to go
I think
again.
we went and got IVs, and didn't we? I think everybody at that time went and got IVs, and it was fun. We both had good cars, if I remember correct, in both races that day, and that makes it so much easier if you're going to have to do one of these double headers.
There's Ty Gibbs. He's doing all 900 today, driving the 19 car before getting into 54 this evening. Home to iconic wins for Secretariat, Seattle Slew, and American Pharoah. The most famous final furlong in the history of racing is coming to Fox. Don't miss the 2023 Belmont Stakes, June 10th only on Fox.
It's going to be quite the final furlong, Adam. That's one of the most exciting moments in sports.
We had fans tweeting us the other night how many furlongs we had left in that truck race. I don't remember what that math equation was, so I'm just going to let that one lay there. You know, you're living right because you were in the studio all day yesterday when it rained.
And now I'm here to train.
You come out here, and we're going to throw it to the studio to get you out of work.
I looked out today. I think we did 4.5, 5 hours of rainfall. There they are.
Throw it to Shannon, Jamie.
Shannon, can you hear us?
Hi. What's up, Jamie? I feel like we're at Michigan in 2008. I was just telling these guys.
We thought we would let you guys enjoy a little bit of rainfill today with us.
Hey, Shannon, let me say this, though. The man 2 over from you, David Reagan, looks a whole lot better than the driver that was sitting there yesterday. Let me say that.
Well, I I'm fresh, Adam. They called me and I was sitting on the bench and they said, you're going in, David. Come on. So I had a good night's rest last night.
Yeah, David Reagan, the sixth man today in studio. We'll take it for a few minutes, let you guys get a bathroom break, get something to eat, whatever you need to do before this race gets started. America's crew chief Larry McReynolds, of course, David Reagan. Listen, I mean, it's raining, it's not raining, it's raining, it's not raining. We did get 25 laps in. So as a crew chief, you're saying what to your driver about what they can identify about what they learned?
Yeah, I don't know that we learned a whole lot because I get a feeling that racetrack was a little bit damp the entire time from the drop of the green flag. And I told David Reagan, I said, you mark my word, we're going to get that competition cost at lap 20. And we're going to have pit stops, and before we can go back green, the mist is going to pick up, and lo and behold, that's exactly what's happened. I'd be hard-pressed to read a lot in those first 20 laps. The track was very green with no rubber, and I think it actually had a little bit of moisture on it.
Then you lied to me, because when I sat down here, I said, so once this thing goes
you're
green,
my driver, son. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear.
We're going racing, right? I mean, this is going to be good. What can you learn, or how do you kind of approach those 25 laps from in the car?
From a driver's perspective, Shannon, it's so hard to get in a rhythm. You know, first off, it's been 48 hours since these race cars were on the racetrack Friday afternoon. A lot of these drivers went back home. They took it easy the last couple of days. So to show up at the racetrack, you're kind of off your rhythm anyway. You finally get buckled in, you're ready to go racing. And then it's so frustrating when you fire off, your car's doing one thing, you see the mist on your windshield, and you heard a few drivers kind of voice their uncertainty almost. Well, I didn't know if it was the racetrack changing grip levels, if it was my race car changing a little bit. So they're a little unsure on what feedback to give to their crew chief, and they're trying to be a little conservative, not to tear anything up. So it's very hard to get into that rhythm. They want to get back in the race car so they can make sure they understand what's going on.
The good thing is we go back racing, and we will go back racing. We're going to only have about 20 laps until the end of stage one, so that'll give them another read, another measuring stick about where their car actually stacks up.
Yeah, and then you hear guys like Parker Kligerman, whose car is really good. Do you just say, whoa, buddy, just take it easy, don't get too optimistic, because we don't really know what this track is going to be like once we get back out there?
Well, you shouldn't have as big of a swing in track temperature today. It should stay fairly consistent. You know, once they do get back on the racetrack, that racetrack takes a little bit of rubber. I do feel like the cars that were really good when they fired off will probably still have some speed in them, but if my driver's happy and excited, I'm going to try to harness that and say, all right, you go out there and keep being aggressive, because it is, even though it's a rain-delayed race, they've been in and out of the race car, this race is still going to award a checkered flag to somebody, and it's an important race, so you got to keep that driver focused and really have the big picture and not let that escape.
Sounds like Cole Custer is going to be fun to watch, because based on damage on pit road, sounds like they're going to bring that 00 back in, make some repairs just so he doesn't cut a tire down. He's got a fast 00 car, so he will be trying to make as much hay as he can before the end of stage one.
Is that like, hey,
yeah,
make
that's
as much
like get it all when you can while you can.
Hey, let's look at the playoff leaderboard, why don't we, as we see those cars heading out to the track. I guess the jet dryers have pulled off. But this is a playoff leaderboard after 11 races. We've got Austin Hill, who I'm sure we will speak to at some point today, and John Hunter Nemechek. Those guys have been the class of the field all season long. Chandler Smith right behind him in third, Jeff Burton in fourth, and Sammy Smith in fifth. And the cutoff line right there, you've got the previous champ, Daniel Hemrick, and Parker Kligerman kind of hugging that playoff line right there in 12th and 13th. One guy that you don't see on there I want to ask you about real quick is Justin Haley. We heard from him during that rain delay, and he said he's sliding around in that seat because, of course, he was called in to race for Kyle Busch, who is no longer going to be in this race racing the Cup Series. Have you ever experienced that? I know that you used to do the double duty stuff and go back and forth, but have you ever been like sliding around because the seat is not right for you?
Yeah, I've had to fit in Mark Martin's seat before, where my knees were
tight,
almost at the steering wheel and I was hunched over. Then I've had to, drive some for a Carl Edwards or someone that was a little bigger, and so it's so uncomfortable. You're trying to hold yourself up, you're trying to get comfortable, and also try to think about the race car. And Justin talked about it in his interview, Shannon. It's been a year or two since he's been in one of these Xfinity cars. The Xfinity cars drive a lot different than the next-gen cars that he's racing every weekend on Sundays, and so it's a little bit of a challenge to get that call late on Sunday night, show up at the racetrack early. He had to start at the back of the pack. He's running P16 right now. now. So he has made up a lot of spots, and I think he's a great little race car driver. I think they'll continue to work on that race car. He looked like he was smiling and having a little bit of fun, but he's got a long day in front of him.
He does.
Yeah, the biggest thing when I look at those points, and I heard this morning, this point last year, Junior Motorsports had already won 3 or 4 races. They dominated this race a year ago with Josh Berry going to victory lane, and here we are more than a third of the way through their entire season. Junior, they have a lot of drivers above the cut line. Every driver except Brandon Jones, who's had a little bit of a rough start over there, but they have not found victory lane, and we're almost a third of the way or over a third of the way through the season. It's really hard to believe.
Yeah, Justin Allgaier obviously starting this race on the pole, but he did get some damage on pit road during that pit stop, so we'll see how that kind of evolves. You mentioned kind of dominating, right? It's not Junior Motorsports' year so far to dominate, but the 2 drivers who really have been dominating are Austin Hill and John Hunter Nemechek. Take a look at that. 5 wins combined between the 2 of those. Top 5s, top 6, average finish in the top 10, and they are just leading laps. And these are the 2 that we're really kind of looking at. So I know this is kind of like, listen, we haven't rehearsed, we don't know what we're doing, we're just kind of going for it. But I'm going to give you John Hunter Nemechek, I'm going to give you Austin Hill, and just kind of tell me why that's the one that you're watching.
Well, has speed every single week. It doesn't matter what type of a racetrack. But I will say this, whether it's Austin Hill or John Hunter Nemechek, we leave Charlotte. 3 of the next 4 races we're going road course racing, including the streets of downtown Chicago. That's going to tell us a lot. It could end up separating those 2 out, because outside of that, everything they've done this year is almost a mirror of each other.
Yeah, they're within 1 point of each other in the point standings. But what I've been impressed with Austin Hill about, Shannon, is got those wins so early in the year, and for him to be able to come out and win at Las Vegas. His only career wins before that were at Daytona and in Atlanta, both super speedway style racing. So when I think of Austin Hill and that RCR team, I didn't really expect them to be championship contenders, but getting 3 wins this early in the seasons, he's coming off back-to-back top 5s at Dover and Darlington. So they do have some speed in that Chevrolet out of RCR. And so as Austin Hill continues to mature as a driver, get better, those road courses like Larry talked about, they will be so important for setting the tone this summer.
Yeah, I've not talked to Austin Hill or his crew chief Andy Street, but I am a little concerned where they're at the shorter tracks, at the road courses. I think that's right now maybe where John Hunter Nemechek holds a little bit of an advantage, but as we get through the summer months, that'll tell us a lot about that.
Give me another name, someone else besides John Hunter Nemechek and Austin Hill, who is going to be a player to make that top 4.
His last name's Smith, and there's 2 of them.
Chandler
Smith and Sammy Smith, they have been so impressive this year. Both of them have found victory lane. Sammy Smith, a little inconsistent with his finishes, but I think once these 2 young drivers get more time, we start maybe going back to some racetracks for a second time, I think they can really move toward the forefront.
Yeah, I want to shine a spotlight on Cole Custer, one of the guys below that win column right now. He was so off the first few races this year, but he's really hit his stride. The last 5 races, he's got top 10s and all of those, Shannon. And when I look at him, he's got the most experience out of a lot of those guys. So I think he's just scratching the surface. And once he can find victory lane, I think he's going to be a threat this summer and certainly going into the playoffs.
That's been the interesting dynamic is Stewart Haas Racing. You have Riley Herbst, that 98 car, could do no wrong when the season started.
Yeah.
Top 10s week in and week out. Cole Custer couldn't find one. You look at the last month or so, they went this way. Riley Herbst can't even hardly find a top 20, and now Cole Custer is clicking those top 5s, top 10s off.
All right, that's big picture for who's good on the season. Let's take a look at who's good at Charlotte, right? We've got the best average finish of active drivers at this specific racetrack. So kind of who you might want to keep your eye on. There's your guy right there, Cole Custer. Larry, you just mentioned him. Daniel Hemrick, Jeb Burton, Justin Allgaier, Brett Moffitt, and Brandon Jones. These are the guys who have the best average finish with a minimum of 3 starts at this racetrack. You already talked Cole. Maybe let's talk Daniel Hemrick a little bit, and then we could go Jeb, Brandon, or Brett. Let's start with Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel Hemrick has been one of those guys that is always just right under that spot where he can lead some laps, has solid finishes, but he just struggles finding victory lane. Now, he's got a lot of victories on the Legends Car racetrack on the quarter mile at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but, you know, I think he's the flagship car for Colleague Racing, and he needs a win. You know, I think that would propel those guys to have a little bit more confidence, and his teammates have been able to get some wins in that all-star car for Colleague. workaholic. So, yeah, he's got a great average finishing position at Charlotte over his career. So I know he wants another shot at a victory lane today.
You want to go, Jeb, with Jordan Anderson Racing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously got that win at Talladega. And that team, that organization, they're still growing. But he has had good speed so far this week. Qualified up inside the top 10. I don't know that they had that great of a pit stop. But definitely I think that would be the next rung in the ladder for that organization is let's get a solid run, maybe good top fives at the intermediates. We know we can win at the super speedways, but honestly, going back to that list, I think Justin Allgaier in that 7, whether it's Cup, Xfinity, or trucks, experience just seems to prevail at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Nobody has more experience than Justin Allgaier. He's already proved he's got speed in practice on Friday, in qualifying, and I think he's going to be just fine. Honestly, I felt like he slid through his pits because that concrete pit road, pit box was a little bit wet.
Yeah. All right, well, let's not forget what this day is really about, right? It's about racing, obviously, but it's also Memorial Day. So all of you at home that are joining us for our coverage today, holding out the rain and continuing to stay with us, we thank you very much. And, of course, we thank all of the servicemen and servicewomen for all of their service to our country. Adam, I think I saw cars on the racetrack, which is a very good sign as we get ready to maybe get this thing started again. Back to you, Jamie and Michael.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I want to go back to what Larry was talking about and Justin Allgaier. He's won 19 times in his career. He's never won here at Charlotte. And I asked him about boxes he wants to check. He's never won at Daytona, Talladega. I know he would love to win here. He said, I want to get up north of 24 wins because that's how many career wins Dale Jr. had, the boss man. I want to pass him. I said, that would be a fun trophy to deliver on Monday morning, would it not? You guys can add
7.
if you want. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'll tell you what I'm going to add, Adam. I want to dial up to 39 of Ryan Sieg. He's leading this race. Get a report what the track's looking like. Ryan Sieg, Michael Waltrip and the Fox team. Do you copy, buddy?
Gotcha, Mikey.
Well, I got a couple of questions. First of all, how's the track looking? How do you feel about going back racing? You can answer that. And then the second one, what's the strategy here? What's your plan to be able to win this race today?
Yeah, the track is much better. I was a little worried the last when I was in the lead last time, but much better now. And strategy, we're just trying to get some track position and put ourselves farther forward right here and try to hopefully win the race here. Maybe a rain-shortened race here at Charlotte. So that's our strategy for our CMR Ford Mustangs, is trying to get some track position and get up around here and see where we stack up against everyone else since we had an engine issue in practice, so just looking forward to getting going here. I want to say hello to my daughter. She broke her arm yesterday on her trampoline at home, so she had surgery this morning. Hopefully she's doing better.
Oh, that's sad. I'm glad you got to say hello to her. Love the family team. Love what y'all do. You were 39th at the start, 19th in the middle. Now you're first. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're going to get the 1 to go next time around. Justin Allgaier's 6th right now.
What do you think about the track? NASCAR's asking. I think the track's fine. I mean, at this point, it's still better than it was when we were under green, so why not go?
That's the attitude. Let's go.
Chandler Smith, 8th as we prepare for the restart.
I got a fuel pickup issue. When I'm in the banking and I go weave to the right and I try to press the throttle, it's not picking up the fuel.
Well, that's interesting because the tank's full, so the banking shouldn't affect that pickup at all. And I would say if he's having a problem, it's something other than a pickup issue right now.
Are we coming to 1 to go, Adam?
1 to go, which means the choose. And we're going to have about 15 laps to go in the stage. And I'm really anxious to see how all these strategies play out because, you can get 15 laps on these tires. Do you stay out at the end of the stage and go on the same tires you used at the competition caution? How do you handle this?
Well, and everyone's going to see how Ryan Sieg performs on these 20-lap tires. If he's able to hang on, even if he can just hang on to the top 5, it's going to change the strategy, I think, of what some of the crew chiefs see on pit road. Look, historically, Charlotte, when it's a green racetrack like we had, it wears tires out for the first couple of stops. So I would think he's going to have a hard time hanging on, but you just never know. I like the fact he chose the outside, though. If he can get a good initial start, a good launch on those older tires, I think the outside is going to be the preferred lane. being in that traction compound in turns 1 and 2.
You know, no matter what, everybody's going to hear, well, the 39 faded, or the 39, you know, that's building confidence in your driver when you're trying to sell them your plan for strategy.
It's interesting to see Cole Custer, they elected to stay out. You know, he said during that rain delay that he thought they might have to come down for that crush panel rubbing. We'll have to pay attention to that, see if we see any smoke out of the 00 car, but he's definitely one of the cars that's going to contend to win this race, and they've taken a little bit of a risk here, probably staying out.
Yeah, and that's interesting, too. I'm sure the crew were able to get a good eyeball on that car and see what they exactly needed to do, and they felt like it was okay. You don't want to give up that track position.
There will be 14 laps to go on the restart. The pace car is pulling onto pit road, and the red flag and the rain delay has been lifted for now the second time for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the first after the drop of the green. On the front row for the restart, Ryan Sieg, John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Gibbs, Cole Custer in row 2. Sieg on the outside, does not fire off very well, gets out of the way immediately. Nemechek to the lead on the inside lane. They're 3 wide, splitting around the 39 car, who is still staying in that third lane on the outside, trying to get out of harm's way. The 2 JGR Toyotas of John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs will end up 1-2 at the front of the field, down the backstretch. Sheldon Creed in third, and now a side-by-side battle for fourth between Allgaier and Hemrick. Hemrick will pull clear with the slide job into turns 3 and 4. Allgaier goes up the racetrack, might have hit a wet spot. I'm not sure what happened there, maybe bottomed out. Rather, that was Cole Custer in the 00 car who went up the racetrack. Allgaier is on the inside of Custer, trying to get around him. Could not get a good run off the corner despite the mistake by Custer initially. Sammy Smith, slips the bottom of the racetrack a little bit as well, and it does look like there may be a little bit of smoke coming out of the back of that 00 car of Cole Custer, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. He was one of the cars I think that may have had contact on pit road, so maybe it's a tire rub, and we'll see if it'll hold up here into the end of the stage. Near contact off turn 4 between Austin Hill and Sammy Smith, and Herbst goes to the outside, 3 wide, to trying to get by both of them off the AstroTurf on the inside of the front stretch. Goes to 21 of Austin Hill as he nearly made contact with Sammy Smith. Almost wasn't enough room to go 3 wide there. May have clipped the turf just a little bit. Very lucky that it's not grass, otherwise it might have tore the splitter up, especially with how damp it is. But instead he was able to just kind of slide right through it. Keeps on trucking. He did lose a spot or 2 off of it, but still has the momentum up as we have 11 laps to go in stage 1. John Hunter Nemechek, 0.4 of a second ahead of Ty Gibbs. Gibbs was pretty strong on that first initial run of the race, was second at the time of the competition caution behind Allgaier, who was leading. He was closing in on Allgaier. He was about 1.5 seconds behind him at one point. Got to his back bumper right before the cop yellow came out. That's where we left off from the racing standpoint side of things. Not going to quite have as long of a green flag run this time because it's only going to be 14 laps at the most versus the initial start was 20. But we'll see how it works out for him. Nose to tail still is Austin Hill and Riley Herbst. Looked like Herbst may have been bump drafted him down the front stretch there a little bit after having a nice run off turn 4. Does not pull out of line to try to make the pass. He'll stay behind him in the 9th place position. Behind those two, a little bit outside the top 10, is a battle for position, it looked like, between Sammy Smith and Brett Moffitt. And actually, they're right behind Herbst. Herbst has lost a little bit of touch from the 21 of Hill in front of him after Hill made the pass on him. Riley just trying to hang on to get some sort of stage points here before the end of this first stage. Similar lap time with the JGR Toyotas at the front of the field. Ty Gibbs about 700ths quicker that last lap, though, than Nemechek. Still remains at 0.4 of a second off the race lead. And Justin Allgaier now in the attack of Sheldon Creed. Creed running the outside near the wall at turns 3 and 4. Allgaier down on the bottom will get underneath him but can't complete the pass and slide back alongside the 2 car of Creed. He does not go up to aggressively side draft him. Pretty wide on the front stretches, Creed giving the 7 car a lot of room to try to make the pass. Hooking that blue line, the painted line on the inside of the racetrack with the left side tires is Allgaier. Slides clear, maybe a little too far of a slide though, as Sheldon Creed will cross him over at the run off the top. He'll clear him going into turn 3, and now Creed's on the bottom of the racetrack with Allgaier running the top. 7 laps to go in stage 1. Creed, Allgaier. Back and forth they go. Allgaier back around Creed with a crossover of his own off turn 4. Ty Gibbs now trying to put the battle to John Hunter Nemechek for the lead. He looked to the inside through turns 1 and 2. Couldn't stay there, though, and sits in line about a car length and a half or two behind him. Good run off the exit of turn 2 for Nemechek to kind of pull the 19 of Gibbs just a little bit. Gibbs right back down on that white line once again. Couldn't get alongside Nemechek that time, though. He was a little bit too far back. May have to try to widen that arc out just a little bit more to try to help himself down the straightaways, because that's where he's lacking with the 20 car running above him. Old car started in the middle lane going into turns 1 and 2, and then fed up towards the wall as they got closer to the exit of the corner. Gibbs maybe looks a little bit quicker than John Hunter Nemechek at this point in the run. Gibbs in the Cup Series standings, though. Remember, he is not running for Xfinity points, although the 19 car is in the Xfinity Series playoffs with Ryan Truex winning at Dover just a few weeks ago in that same car Gibbs is driving. So he is looking for a playoff point for the 19 team as a whole for the owner standings, but John Hunter Nemechek looking for the playoff point for the driver standings, of course. And he is in a nice battle for the regular season championship currently, and a tight one at that between Austin Hill and John Hunter Nemechek. Very tight battle coming into this race between those two. 15 playoff points are awarded to the regular season champ. Though we are not quite halfway through the regular season. For the Xfinity Series, like we are in the Cup side. A couple extra off weeks for the Xfinity Series so far this year. The Cup Series to this point has not had an off week, except for, I guess, technically an off week last week with the All-Star break, but they still raced. No points race, though. Xfinity was off entirely last week. There wasn't any racing. Before they had their West Coast trip going to Portland and Sonoma back-to-back. 3 of their next 4 races in this series will be on road courses, counting the Chicago Street Course race on 4th of July weekend. Pass for the lead, turns 1 and 2. Nemechek slid a little too far up the racetrack, had to lift to keep it off the wall, and Ty Gibbs passed him to the inside. Pulls clear by about 3 car lengths down the backstretch, and with less than 2.5 laps to go in stage 1, Gibbs is out in front. First lead for Ty in the race so far. Nemechek sliding a little bit wide in 3 and 4 once again, and now he's in the dirty air behind Gibbs as Gibbs looks to set sail. Nemechek had a bit of a loose moment at the very start of the race as well. And there was a loose moment for himself, and Gibbs is checking out quickly, over a second ahead of Nemechek already. Daniel Hemrick is propelled to 3rd on this green flag run out of nowhere. He's picked up about 5 spots since the restart. Although, as he is battling Justin Allgaier will get him back, it looks like, for 3rd. Clears him in the center of 3 and 4. As he works his way to the outside, Daniel Hemrick's got to run to try to get back at him. To the inside goes Hemrick. They're side by side at the line. 1 lap to go in stage 1 as we round lap 45. Ty Gibbs lapping a car, it looks like, through turns 1 and 2. That driver will get the free pass here, though, at the end of the stage. So wasn't going to put up much of a battle on Gibbs for the moment. Ty Gibbs that last lap was about 4/10 quicker than John Hunter Nemechek. Gibbs really settling in right now. Has to be liking his race car from a handling and a speed standpoint. Gibbs will win stage 1 at Charlotte for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Photo finish for 3rd, where Allgaier will barely narrow out Daniel Hemrick. And another couple close finishes for some stage points around Herbst and Custer as well. So Ty Gibbs will win stage 1 today, his first stage win of the Xfinity Series season. John Hunter Nemechek will end up finishing 2nd, Justin Allgaier 3rd, Daniel Hemrick 4th, and Sheldon Creed 5th. 6th place in the stage was Chandler Smith, Austin Hill 7th, Josh Berry 8th, Cole Custer 9th, and Riley Herbst will round out the top 10 through the first 45 laps. We'll take a look at the point standings coming into the NASCAR Xfinity Series race this season. Means we did not get a chance to do so before the start of the race. And we will see just how tight those regular season standings are amongst the leaders as well as the playoff battle. So the battle for the regular season championship right now, John Hunter Nemechek is your points leader, so getting 9 points is big here, beating Austin Hill in the first stage by about 6 positions. Austin Hill is only 1 point behind John Hunter Nemechek, though, for that additional 15 playoff points. So that is a huge, close battle through the first 11 races. After today's race, they still have 16 races, though, to go in the regular, 15 races, rather, to go in the regular season standings. So I do think that That battle will continue on into the summer. We'll see how they'll do on the upcoming road courses. Justin Allgaier's third in the standings, 53 out of first. He's the highest driver in the point standings without a win. His teammate Josh Berry just behind him at 57 points behind the leader. And then Cole Custer is 59 points back, all within one race worth of points, though, through the top 5 in the first 11 races. All the drivers who are locked into the Xfinity Series playoffs with wins for Xfinity regulars. We have 5 different Xfinity drivers who have won a race this year. Jonathan Hunter Nemechek has 2 wins this season, Austin Hill with 3, and then 3 drivers with 1 win being Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton. Jeb Burton is the only driver below the actual top 12 in points, which would qualify for the playoffs with a win, so that actually has Daniel Hemrick as the last driver above the cutoff line on points over Parker Kligerman, who is the first driver below the cutoff line on points. 33 points separate Kligerman from Hemrick from Kligerman, I should say. Sam Mayer is only 2 more points ahead of Hemrick than what Kligerman is, and then Riley Herbst only 4 points ahead of Daniel Hemrick as well, or 4 points ahead of Mayer and 6 points ahead of Hemrick. So those guys are fairly tight, definitely within 1 race worth of points. Sheldon Creed's plus 56 as well. He's had a big last handful of races after a slow start to the season, so he's really picked it up. Has some speed today too, top 10 here in this first stage, but yeah, we'll see how that all plays out, honestly. Other drivers who are below the cutoff line right now, on the outside looking in, Brandon Jones is minus 43 points, just an abysmal season for him so far with his first year at Junior Motorsports. And then Ryan Sieg is 63 points back, Brett Moffitt 73 back. So that's kind of what we're looking at. What's amazing is that Ryan Truex, who has only ran 6 races this year, is 18th in points. Has a win. He has to run all the races to be eligible, though, for the playoffs because he's only running a part-time season. He will not be playoff eligible with that win. And I don't think he will be if he even gets into the top 12 in points. I doubt that's going to be possible because he's pretty far behind 12th. Behind Hemrick, he is over a full race worth of points back. I guess it's possible depending on how strong he could run, but I don't even think he's scheduled to run that many more races in the 19 car this year either, so we'll see. I think he was originally scheduled for 6 if I'm not mistaken. I would imagine he may run more. It looks like the mist has picked up once again on the racetrack, and this time it's at the end of stage 1. As the field comes onto pit road, the pace car is in front of them still, and we will go under our second red flag in this race. So tough break. Every time we go to caution, we get the heat out of the racetrack because the cars are not running at full speed. They're not spaced apart. We tend to lose the track. Second time that this has happened now. Showing some damage on the right side of John Hunter Nemechek's number 20 Toyota, as he may have gotten into the wall that one time he got loose right around losing the lead to Ty Gibbs. And we will see if... I mean, he's definitely rubbed the lettering off of the Goodyear tires. So he definitely got into the wall pretty good. And if he does have a tire rub, they're definitely going to have to pull out the fenders during the ensuing pit stop. Remember, to make this race official, we have to race to lap 90, which is the end of stage 2. And currently we're at lap 48, just finishing stage 1. So we're about 42 laps away, where if we end up getting enough rain at that point, they could call the race. And with the Cup race at 3 p.m. today, it's a pretty tight window. We may only be racing to that point. We'll just have to see as it goes. But Ty Gibbs, your race leader right now. The drivers are still in their cars. They're under a caution period. They do have the Air Titans out on the racetrack trying to dry it, though, as much as they possibly can. And we will see if they will actually display the red flag, because currently they have not. They're technically under caution, which is why the drivers have to stay buckled up and buckled in their cars, but yeah, we'll see. No signal yet from any officials that we are under red flag. Some of the teams have the covers ready to put on the race cars. The Air Titans, again, are out on the racetrack. Try to dry the track as much as they possibly can. Just a tough weekend at Charlotte when it comes to trying to get these races in, beating the weather. Mike George, Buddy R., Major Kenneth Withrow, Adrian K., Regine Huddleston, also welcome into the stream. Sid for Brains, thanks for tuning in. I don't think I shouted you out quite yet. Vondell Ellery. You're under a commercial break right now. Who's going to be in the booth for the Cup race? Tony Stewart is in the booth this weekend for the Cup race. They were supposed to have a drivers-only booth for the Xfinity race today, and they actually did during their coverage on Saturday during the rain delay. They had Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano in the booth, and then for pit reporters, they had Tyler Reddick, Austin Cindric, and who else did they have? I know Jamie Little was still there with them, but there was somebody else too, driver-wise. You guys might have to refresh my memory. Actually, it might have only been those two, and then Jamie Little. No, there was somebody else. I swear there was 3 of them. Regan Smith was there too. Yeah, it was just, that's right. Yeah, so Regan Smith was in it. He's a retired driver. So maybe that's who I was thinking. Active Cup drivers, I guess it would have only been Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric. And then in the Charlotte studio, they had Brad Keselowski, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Eric Almirola. So they were all a part of that. But as far as with the 600 coming up later on this afternoon, that is why they're not all in the booth again for the Xfinity coverage today. Adam Alexander, Jamie McMurray, and Michael Waltrip are in the booth instead on Fox Sports 1, where you can watch this race. If you are wondering what is going on right now, we are under red flag for the second time. It looks like they have displayed it so drivers can get out of their vehicles. If they were asked to get out of their vehicles, we'll see. Heavy mist for the second time today. We're just trying to battle and race our way through it. We are about 2.5 hours from the start of the Cup Series race. And if you're wondering why I've been grabbing snacks during the first rain delay, it is because we're not going to have a lot of time between races, and I'm trying to make sure I get my food intake for the day. So I grabbed a couple bags of chips. And if we get more driver interviews, I'll probably be doing the same thing, probably make a couple bologna sandwiches or something. I'm like slightly hungry. I'm not that hungry, but I know there's not going to be a lot of time between the Xfinity and the Cup race with the rain that keeps playing on right now because we're only 2.5 hours away. So I'm trying to make sure that I get something to eat because I'm not going to have much time to do it once we get to racing to do the commentary side of things. So far, again, Ty Gibbs is your race leader. And then John Hunter Nemechek in second. Our second red flag of the day. A very cloudy, misty day at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
A few minutes. Hi, everyone. We're back. Shannon, Larry, and David. Bill Murray is not in studio with us, and Puxatawny Phil is not in studio with us either. Groundhog's Day, of course, if you didn't get the reference. We almost made it 50 laps again out of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I feel like a broken record asking you, what'd you see?
It's like that little engine and could. We just keep checking off a few more laps at a time, Shannon. I think Ty Gibbs has been the best car so far. I know he hasn't led the most laps, but he's been constantly chasing that leader down, whether it was Justin Allgaier before the first rain or John Hunter Nemechek right here. But looks like he's got the car that's got the most speed. But, man, I'm seeing a lot of drivers being aggressive, already running all 3 lanes of the racetrack. Definitely a sense of urgency out there with all those guys.
Well, we may possibly be racing for the end of stage 2, which we know is just a little over 40 laps from now, which would be lap 90. That way the race would be official. We're not saying that's what we're doing, but I get a feeling that's what these crew chiefs, these drivers are thinking. But there's another player lurking back there, and we talked to him during that last red flag. Josh Sperry in that 8 car, who won this race a year ago, started at the tail of the field because of power steering issues. He made his way to 17th by the end of that competition caution, and now at the end of stage 1, he has cracked the top 10. He may be a player here shortly.
Josh Berry. I'm writing his name down.
Write it down.
I'm writing it down. He's currently in 8th. We'll see where he is in 25. I'm kidding. Hopefully we're not back at 25 laps. Hopefully we make it to the end of stage 2. So if you've been a NASCAR fan for the last 25 years, you probably remember the name Lyndon Amick. He was a fixture in the Xfinity series in the late 90s and early 2000s. After his racing career, he served in the military. And on this Memorial Day, we want to remind you of his story and his journey.
On the outside, everybody thought everything was great, but unfortunately, life has a way of teaching you how difficult life can be.
Oh, trouble, here we go, here we are.
I don't know that I could be who I am if I hadn't gone through some of that. On the other side is the first time I felt freedom in my life. I grew up here in South Carolina, and I went to a dirt race. I didn't even know that world existed, and so it was the coolest thing in the world to me. NASCAR became the answer, and at that time, the Goodies Dash Series existed.
He's gonna do it. Lyndon Amick wins the Daytona USA 200.
We won 4 races in '96, won the championship. I was like, well, okay, well then what's the next step? Well, it's got to be the next tier. If you're going to be doing NASCAR at that level, it takes everything that you have.
At the core, when it really becomes who you are, there's an added stress because you have good weeks and you have bad weeks.
Something happened on the inside of me. Post 9/11, I had felt like, what am I doing with my life? 10 years from go-karts to NASCAR, had not had this level of success that I wanted, and it was time to do something different. Talladega of '03 was my last race. Getting in a wreck, was sliding down off the banking. I'm just like, I'm done. You know, as I pondered the freedoms that I was able to experience being an American, and I had some sense of the sacrifice that had been given in order for us to have the freedoms that we have, I felt like I owed something for that. There birthed a desire to serve my country, and ultimately the National Guard was a great option for me. I think the experiences in Afghanistan changed me in 1,000 different ways. If we leave here and get in the car and drive down the road, we're not worried about getting blown up. Every time you wake up, you're faced with the reality of those are possibilities today. That's some serious residual effect, and you come back and you just don't know how to put it together.
It was very difficult for him to have normal conversations.
Had no clue of what it really meant to be a dad and what it really meant to be a husband. I mean, I love my kids, but I was not a good husband.
Say, I'm bigger than you, Daddy.
I'm bigger than you, Dad.
I had lived this life just doing whatever I wanted to do. I mean, hardly ever home. I mean, I was running from myself.
The agitation, the on edge, not able to sleep. He was very broken at that point.
For me to get where I am today, which is living in peace, happiness, and joy, was encountering God's love in a way that I'd never experienced before through Melanie. There was a response in me of wanting to change who I was. It was a terrible and a beautiful thing all at the same time for your heart to be exposed to yourself. The catalyst was that act of me sitting down with Melanie and laying it all out there.
I just said, we need to be seen for who we are.
As hard as that conversation was, on the other side of that conversation is the first time I felt freedom in my life. The weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders and I felt peace. I went through all those different experiences, whether it was racing or the military, and as a dad now, and how much I value being a dad and how important I know it is in their life. I don't know that I could be who I am if I hadn't gone through some of that.
So I've seen that feature a couple of times now. Thank you, Amick, obviously, for sharing your story with us. It's so beautiful, but it hits me and touches me every single time I see it. This is what this weekend is all about.
It really is. And you know, I said this yesterday, and I actually put the tweet out this morning because I'm very confident and believe this with all my heart. It's Memorial Day weekend to honor our fallen military heroes. And the reason they could gather more than 250,000 people at Indy yesterday, the reason over the course of these several days at Charlotte we can gather over 100,000 people and we can all feel safe, we don't think twice about being there, is because of that ultimate sacrifice that our fallen military heroes made protecting our freedom.
And it's so great of a story about Lyndon Amick and his choice, Shannon, to go serve his country in the National Guard. He was a successful race car driver, family-owned business down in South Carolina, but he had that calling to go and serve his country and do those things that allow us to be here today talking about racing. So, thank you to Lyndon and all the other servicemen and women out there. A special weekend, and it's great that we get to share his story and talk a little bit. And it's great to see that he's in such a good spot with his wife and his kids and his family. That's great.
I know I'm not the only one. I lost my 97-year-old grandfather last year, and he was a World War II veteran, part of airborne unit, one of the very first organized airborne units. And I grew up listening to stories of the battles that he was in and the friends that he served alongside. My father, also a Vietnam veteran, he flew F-4s in the war. And so all of this stuff, friends that we meet along the way in our lifetime, Gold Star families, folks that you guys meet at the racetrack, not just on Memorial Day, but every single weekend, because this sport is so involved with the military aspect.
Yeah, I mean, the pre-race show for the Coca-Cola 600 is always so moving when you have all the different branches represented, all those men and women there. But every weekend, I think NASCAR does an outstanding job of remembering those soldiers and their families. You know, even though the soldiers are overseas or abroad serving our country, it's the families that are still here, that are still going through the motions without their loved ones. So a big shout out to all those families as well.
No, as long as I can remember, the Coke 600 has been on Memorial Day weekend my entire career in NASCAR. But several years ago, we started Honor and Remembrance, remembering our fallen military heroes. And I know I'm a little bit prejudiced, but you know what? I know a lot of people honor Memorial Day weekend and what it stands for, but I really don't believe anybody does it better than NASCAR, than Charlotte Motor Speedway, than the race teams, as well as Fox NASCAR.
Yeah, it was so great. A couple of years ago when Brad Keselowski won, and it was during COVID, and obviously the families couldn't be in Victory Lane with Brad. And so I think on Race Hub the next day, we actually got them together on a Zoom, and Brad called in and was able to share that moment with that family. So Larry just mentioned the 600 miles of remembrance, because every single driver in the field today in the Coca-Cola 600 will have the name, as you can see right there, of a fallen soldier. Brad Keselowski's number 6 car will carry the name of Staff Sergeant Curtis Roy Klein. So in 1969, Klein was listed missing in action at the age of 20, just 4 months into active duty during the Vietnam War. His brother and nephew, also veterans, have dreamed of this opportunity to honor Staff Sergeant Klein.
We were young boys, grew up on a farm. He was younger, and I rebuilt an engine in his car for him. You know, we did things like that together. And my brother was a good kid. It was hard seeing him go over to Vietnam. He was in the 4th Infantry Division, and he served on patrols over there, and he was right out there in it. They were crossing a river. He had a line that he was crossing the river with, and he lost his grip, and he was swept away. He was never seen again. The years went by, and they declared my brother dead. We lost him.
We big NASCAR fans, you know, growing up, trips to MIS when we was kids, and so we watch NASCAR races, and especially the Memorial Day race, because it's such a meaningful event.
And we're both veterans.
And so I wonder how someone gets their name put on a car like that. Wrote a letter. NASCAR got a hold of me about a month ago and said, we're going to be able to honor your uncle at the Coca-Cola 600.
Were you guys ready to see the full deal here? You ready to see this windshield? All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. when they see their family member or loved one's name on our cars, I think it hits them really hard that that person has not been forgotten, and that their service and sacrifice meant something to someone somewhere.
To honor him, to remember him, to have this story and these memories that, you know, we can share for our family.
I love him and I'm proud of him.
You're always trying to, you know, make your parents proud, but especially your dad. I love you, Dad. Memorial Day means different things to different people, but to veterans, you know, especially
it's just deeper.
Gold Star family veterans, the dead don't have a voice. And for your family member to be remembered and for other people to say their name, they're not being forgotten.
Yeah.
I said this yesterday during the rainfill on the broadcast that I've been able to meet many Gold Star families, and that is the sentiment, right? It's just remembering their loved one. Donovan Reap, Staff Sergeant Donovan Reap, was the soldier that Brad raced for when he won that race, and we were able to Zoom with them, and obviously Staff Sergeant Curtis Klein this week for Brad Keselowski. But I'm wondering for you, like, I know you were part of this many times, right? 600 miles of remembrance. You walked out to your car, you saw the name, maybe met the family. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was always an emotional week leading up to the race of Shannon. But one thing that's really neat, Staff Sergeant Klein was lost in 1969, and we're still here talking about his sacrifice today. And it's so great for, you know, his brother and his kid, his family, to remember that we haven't forgot about those guys, even if they were lost 60, 70 years ago. I had a special opportunity to remember a fallen soldier from the Iraq War that was a Georgia native, similar age to me, got to meet his family, and certainly a connection because me being from Georgia and their hometown was down in middle Georgia, but we were similar age, and that was just really hard to comprehend that, you know, I was a 21, 22-year-old racing in North America, having a lot of fun, but he was a similar age, fighting for our freedom overseas, and ultimately lost his life and paid the ultimate sacrifice. So, a great opportunity to remember those fallen men and women, but also to say hello to their families and let them know that there's a big community that hasn't forgot about their sacrifice.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it means to these families, like the Klein family, to know, to David's point, over 50 years later, the key words, key phrases being still remembered, not forgotten. We heard it several times during that piece right there. And to know that their family member is being honored by their name being across the top of a windshield of a NASCAR Cup Series car. And then I can't imagine what a family feels like if we've seen many times, saw it with Denny Hamlin last year, going to victory lane and that name being on that windshield and them being to enjoy victory, knowing that their loved one is being honored and remembered.
And another really neat thing, most of the race teams remove that windshield and send it to that family.
Yeah.
You know, the windshield gets used and abused during the 600-mile race, and we oftentimes sign it. A lot of times our whole team would sign it and send it to that family so they can have.
So cool.
The word that keeps circling in my head listening to you talk about the experiences that you had is just brave, especially when you mentioned the young man that was the same age as you, is just bravery, just the unselfish bravery that I don't think, we sitting here can't understand as these young men and women go to serve our country. So again, thank you on this Memorial Day as we're all out there, you know, with our barbecues and our families. Remember the true meaning of what this day is all about. It's about all those men and women who serve for us. Right now, as you see, the track dryers are still out there at the racetrack. We're going to continue to wait out this most recent delay, but you do see some of those car covers coming off, so it looks like we're getting closer to going racing, guys.
All right, excuse me. So as we just heard, sounds like some of the car covers are coming off the race cars that look to be the exact scenario that was going on there when they showed the aerial shot over pit road as they were cutting a commercial break. Mr. Fulton Raz, thanks for tuning in. Happy 24th birthday to you as well. Patrick Shadley, thanks for tuning in to today's stream. Matthew Dorda Bruno, welcome in. Pate Dimilar Yusev, thanks for tuning into the stream. Hopefully I said your name correctly. Alrighty, so looking back, Jonathan Bentley, thanks for tuning into the stream. Yeah, Ty Gibbs definitely has the best car. I think he's got one of the best shots to win. You guys can still vote for who you think will win today's race in the chat if you guys have not done so already. There is a poll that is open. 88 votes have been casted so far. And it's a pretty close poll right now. Other at 39% is leading the poll. You guys, as of right now, collectively are thinking that anybody other than John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Gibbs, and Justin Allgaier will win today's Xfinity Series race at Charlotte. Allgaier at 32% of the votes, not that far behind. Ty Gibbs also at 22% of the votes, looks to have the fastest car in the early going of this race and is currently the leader after winning stage 1. And John Hunter Nemechek in second place right there with him has led quite a few laps so far. He's led the most of any driver, in fact, up to this point. But we will see exactly what will come about these next however many laps we end up running in today's race. The NASCAR Cup Series race is scheduled to go for 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today for the Coca-Cola 600. We will have live commentary coverage, flag-to-flag coverage, from the green flag to the checkered flag, and shortly thereafter you'll get to listen to interviews from your top finishers from that race, highlight drivers maybe from that race, whatever the scenario may be. And we will, again, go live hopefully a half hour before the start of the race. Now, I will say, with this race obviously going a little bit long, if we do get the completion of all 300 miles and 200 laps in for this Xfinity Series Alsco Uniforms 300 at Charlotte, then we are looking at maybe not starting that stream at 2:30. As of right now, the plan is to have this stream start at 2:30, but with the second rain delay that we are under right now, I'm not sure that that will be the case. Now, also, it is worth noting that we may not be racing the full 300 miles in this race. With the mist going on and off, we could only be racing to the end of Stage 2. If that is the case, we are racing to lap 90, and currently we are sitting at lap 48. So very close to that point so far.
We ran on Saturday. We got it started, but it wasn't for long, right, David?
Yeah, Justin Allgaier jumps out to an early lead here, and these guys were racing hard from the drop of the green flag. A little bit of moisture started to fall about lap 15 or 20. But yeah, well, come on, a little. But yeah, Riley Herbst's in-car camera here, you can see some moisture on that front lens, but they were trucking along.
Yeah, and nobody was complaining, but then we had the competition caution at lap 20. Everybody made a 4-tire pit stop except for Ryan Sieg, and lo and behold, the mist picked up, and we ended up with red flag. Right here, though, look at 3 wide on pit road. Does not work. You see Sheldon Creed in the 2 pulling out, Allgaier in the 7, Cole Custer in the 00. Allgaier and Custer both getting a little bit of damage.
All right, so rain delay. So we bring them down. We cover the cars. We try to interview Austin Hill. We don't interview Austin Hill. But now we are getting ready to get back out there. But this is exactly what happened as we started after that first rain delay.
Yeah, Ryan Sieg actually stayed out on those old tires, but he got a little loose through the tri-oval, got past, get into turn 1. But yeah, a lot more hard racing here. John Hunter Nemechek is on the bottom. He takes the lead. And really, Ty Gibbs has been the best car leading into this break. He gets in front of John Hunter Nemechek when John just gets a little bit high on entry to turn 1, overcorrects the car, gets loose, and touches the outside wall. These Xfinity cars, Shannon, are really, really tough, so he does have a little bit of damage, but they'll have to work on that during this upcoming caution.
And Ty Gibbs, in only his second start in 2023, the Xfinity Series champion from last year, he gets that stage 1 win with John Hunter Nemechek finishing second. But now here we are at the end of stage 1. As you said, still pit stops to come. Maybe we can get this thing restarted.
Still don't know what we don't know what we don't know?
What we don't know. We don't know nothing.
But I got a feeling that all this little moisture, it's going to be pushing out. As the day goes on, it's supposed to get better and better and better. So maybe we've gotten all of this behind us, and we can log some laps.
But I have been impressed, and David Reagan mentioned it earlier, all the different grooves that we've had. You know, normally the guy that's leading chooses the inside, but they've seen how much that second, third groove's working. Now they're starting to choose the outside when we get the 1 to go.
Josh Berry, you mentioned him earlier. He's the guy that you got to kind of keep your eyes on. He has been the biggest mover on the day, up 22 positions. But, you know, obviously it's going to get a lot harder as he gets towards the front than it was when he was in the back of the field.
Yeah, but I mean, remember, started at the rear of the field, and we've not run that many green flag laps, made it to 17th at that competition caution. Now he's cracked the top 10. Needs a good pit stop right here, and maybe game on for that 8th.
And I'm sure the topic of discussion during this short red flag was, what do we need to do to make our race cars better? They've got a couple of opportunities to have some pit stops already. I think this could be the most important stop. Make a good adjustment. I got a feeling we're going to have some long green flag runs.
You know, it's always interesting to me because I do cover other sports, but this is the one sport where you're going to have a rain delay, you're going to get out of the car, you're going to get back in the car, out of the car. And you don't really see that a lot in other sports where you have to kind of mentally refocus so many times over the course of the event. What is that like, and what was your process?
Yeah, the drivers have to kind of stay in that zone. I didn't want to go back to the garage. I didn't want to go back to my motorhome. I wanted to sit on that toolbox or the pit box on pit road, eat me a snack, but just kind of stay in that zone, because if you do go back, it's so hard to just think about the different things that are going on at the racetrack. You don't want to pick up your cell phone and start making conversation, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to strap back in this race car and it's business. So I think they've been able to talk about what their strategy is going to be. The engines have fired, and it'll be an important stop for these pit crew guys.
Yeah, I never have been a big believer in Darrell Waltrip's vortex theory, but if we can get them out there and we can get them running a long green flag run, just maybe we can push this stuff out of there and we can get this race in, and then we'll go racing in the Coke 600 later on today with a cup car.
I got some bad news for you guys. I'm being told that they just shut those engines off again, and I think I'm seeing some shots where drivers are loosening the straps on their helmets. So now what, crew chief? Now what are you saying to your drivers?
Well, we just got to wait it out.
What are you saying to your host? What are you saying to your host right now?
My biggest driver I'm talking to right now is my truck driver. Just be patient, be cool. We know it's 54 hours to Portland. We have to park on Friday morning, but I promise you we'll be there and everything will be just fine.
It is so frustrating, Shannon. Again, as a driver, as you see some of these guys taking their helmets off, literally just kind of getting in, and that's your moment to take a deep breath. You're checking out everything inside the race car, and then when the spotter comes on and says, hey, got some more moisture in the air, and you rinse and repeat, you do all that. Some guys might just say, the heck with it, I'm going to stay in here for a little bit and just sit
take a
here.
nap.
But it is frustrating, but the best drivers will be able to turn that switch on and off and get back in that mode of attack, of being in that race car, and the points are going to be paid out. Someone's going to win this race. The responsibility is still there. You can't take it any lighter because you've got all of these rain delays.
And I think you want to make sure and talk to your pit crew. These guys still have several pit stops to make. Let's just don't get lackadaisical and just kind of lay around.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we stay focused as a team and a pit crew, because we've already seen some differences on pit road in just the one or two pit stops that we've had.
I think you just dropped a dang, didn't you? Did you just drop a dang? You saw that shot?
Shannon, I saw it. It's so crazy that the moisture kind of moves out. It looks like you see some bright blue skies on the horizon, and then it comes back in. So let's get Darrell Waltrip on the phone, and let's talk about this vortex. Yeah,
he's going to tell you got to get race cars on the racetrack first. That's the only way it works.
You mentioned Portland, and these guys obviously delayed. This race was supposed to take place on Saturday, and they would have had plenty of time to get across the country. But I heard you talking, and the good thing is they're here, right? So even though they're delayed, they still have an opportunity to go back and get some work done at the shop. It's not like that they're on the road somewhere else.
Well, I think that's where NASCAR made a really smart decision on Saturday when they didn't try to reschedule the race for yesterday. We all knew what the forecast was yesterday. That's why they scheduled it for originally noon today. They moved it back to 11. We lost the Coke 600. Talked to several Xfinity Series teams. They left the racetrack Saturday and they went back to their shops, because not only are they having to work on Portland, they have to work on Sonoma. They have back-to-back road course races out on the West Coast, and then most of those teams were in the shop all day long yesterday. So I think for the most part, we get this race in, load up, go back to the shop, unload the Charlotte stuff, load the road course stuff, head to the West Coast.
And I think racing on a Monday, it being a holiday, a lot of people were planning other things. It makes that week tighter, even in preparation from a driver's perspective, going out to Portland, to Sonoma. You got to remember, both of these racetracks, there's a lot of Xfinity drivers. They don't have a lot of experience at both of these racetracks, so they probably had simulator time, some opportunities to watch video, in-car camera, maybe going out to the West Coast early for some sponsorship sponsor appearances. So it definitely just puts a wrench in the schedule for the whole industry leading into some important races on the West Coast.
You bring up a good point because we've only been to Portland one time with the Xfinity Series, and that was a year ago, and it was essentially a monsoon out there. A.J. Allmendinger ended up winning the race. And up until last year, none of the top 3 series of NASCAR had been to Sonoma except the Cup Series. Last year, it was the Truck Series. Now it's going to be the Xfinity Series. And to your point, a lot of these guys are going to be seeing both these racetracks for the very first time.
Yeah, because we were sitting here, I think, yesterday or the other, and some guys didn't even know. Maybe it was drivers only. They were like, we're not racing Xfinity at Sonoma. And we're like, yeah, we are racing because we don't normally do that. Let us kind of switch gears to the Cup Series, right? Because that race is obviously supposed to take place a little bit later today, 600 miles. And now the drivers are maybe in their motorhome, maybe some decided to go home and risk kind of getting back here to the racetrack. But they're watching this progress and realizing that not only their weekend has now extended, but this day itself is going to extend as well.
Yeah, and it's tough, Shannon, for a driver, really the whole industry, crew chiefs, mechanics. But we love racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway because we get to see our friends, our family, sleep in our own bed. But it is so hard. You feel like you're off rhythm. But when you're home, you're thinking about some things around your house, your wife, your kids, your animals, your chores around the house. But then you've got to flip that switch as you're going out to the racetrack. I always like to go a little early so I could just, clear my mind, think about things. 600 miles this evening, still going to be a long race. You've got to prep, but I know these drivers are watching this Xfinity race today to see how...
They're watching us.
Yeah, well, they're watching us, but they're already seeing that second group coming in. They're thinking about strategy. I know those crew chiefs were looking at Ryan Sieg's strategy early on, staying out with those tires. So there's just so much to go through. We talk about the Xfinity drivers and how they're having to stay focused in the moment, but these Cup drivers are having to do the same thing and get their minds in the right spot to go green later on this afternoon.
Yeah, and I talked to a lot of Cup crew chiefs last week. I talked to Jeremy Bullins, Austin Cindric's crew chief. I talked to all 4 of the Hendrick Motorsports crew chiefs. And think about it. They loaded their cars into the hauler Friday afternoon thinking, okay, we're going to go out to Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're going to get some practice and qualified on Saturday night. We're going to be prepared for that transition we always go through in the Coke 600 where we start in the daytime, go through the twilight, end at night. We still have not turned a single lap with these Cup cars, and Lord only knows what the weather's going to be like or what hour of the day we're going to actually run this race later on when we finally get this Xfinity Series race behind us.
I'm just glad that we get to hang out all day, Larry Mack. As you know, the Fox Sports portion of this is winding down, and I get some extra Larry Mack time. That's all that matters to me.
2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. That's all that matters to me. Let's take a look one more time at the playoff leaderboard here in the Xfinity Series. We've already, as you mentioned, the guys that are in that yellow, those are the ones that have wins on the season. Sammy Smith, the young guy, Jeff Burton, Chandler Smith. You love the Smith guys. John Hunter Nemechek, and then on top of that leaderboard is Austin Hill. Guess what, guys? We get to talk to Austin Hill. We thought we were going to talk to you earlier, Austin, and then you guys got in the car, and then we thought we were going to talk to you again, and then you got in the car again. So unfortunately and fortunately, we get to catch up with you. So thank you. I got to know, are your Georgia Bulldog racing shoes
Why you got to go there first?
holding up in the rain out there, Austin, or are they just destroyed?
They're out in the rain right now, unfortunately, but we're trying to keep them as dry as possible. But yeah, I mean, we're getting some good time getting in and out of the cars. So if we have any issues or anything, I'm starting to kind of get it dialed in on where everything needs to be. So man, this is frustrating. It really is. Our Alsco Chevrolet is actually pretty good. It didn't fire off very good the first 20. Then we come in, talked about it, sat here, looked at some SMT, things that you can't really do on the fly when you don't have these red flag situations. So was able to sit down and look at it, see where I was getting beat, try to do some different things inside the cockpit to be a little bit better. And then we fired off that second stint and was actually really good. Drove all the way up to 7th. Thought we had a really fast Chevrolet, and now we're sitting here watching it miss, rain, whatever you want to call it again. So very frustrating for us drivers. We just want to get in there and get racing and complete all 200 laps.
So, Austin, we're 11 races into 2023, and you won 3 of the first 5 races at 3 completely different types of tracks. And then you kind of hit a little bit of a bump in the road the next 3 or 4 races, but you've come back now with back-to-back 4th-place finishes at Dover and Darlington. At the end of the day, where do you feel like you and the 21 car stack up, Andy Street, your crew chief, as we move toward the summer months?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still working on some things, trying to just get the feel that I need. We came out swinging, like you said, this season at the start of the year, and then, we did hit a little bit of a rough patch, but, we've had some really fast Chevys every time we come to the racetrack, it seems like, and, one thing that we've really worked on during the off-season last year going into this season was to have a better long-run car. Last year it seemed like we'd fire off good for 7-8 laps, and then we'd fall on our face and start building really tight or really loose, whatever the case was at that particular track. And this season we kind of fire off and we're decent for 6, 7, 8 laps, and then we start coming on as the race progresses and as the long run comes in. So I'm hoping to see a long run here today to see where our car stacks up and see where we're at, because I thought that as the run would go that we'd get a little bit better. So this is one of the racetracks last year that I struggled at particularly really bad. So for us to be inside the top 10 and 7th, we're showing some really good speed. We just got to keep working on it, and whenever we get this thing finished and done, I'll be glad to get this behind us and go on to the West Coast.
Yeah, thanks for taking a few minutes, Austin, to join us. And before you came on, we were just talking about that upcoming West Coast swing, all the road courses you have in the next month, and the summer stretch. You're leading the points right now, those big 3 wins to start the season. But what do you think about the upcoming summer stretch? How prepared are you and your team for the road courses? You don't have a lot of experience at Portland, Sonoma, the Chicago street race. Talk to us a little bit about the summer months leading into the playoffs this fall.
Yeah, I feel really good about the road courses. I felt like last year at Portland, it rained all day, and we raced in the rain, but we were able to come home with a 3rd place finish. So, and we were able to actually run 1 or 2 qualifying laps in the dry, and we thought we were pretty good. So I'm excited to go back to Portland to see where our Chevy stacks up. And then Sonoma, yeah, I mean, I've never been there before. I don't know what that's going to be like. Been doing a lot of iRacing on it and things like that. Was able to do a Skip Barber deal, and so that was cool just to kind of, just see the racetrack and see the elevation changes. And, Sonoma, watching it on TV doesn't put into justice how big that turn 1 hill is. So it was cool to get out there just to walk the racetrack and see it. And then I don't know what to tell you about Chicago. I have no idea. So I don't think anybody does until we get there and we see what happens. But yeah, I mean, these next few races coming up with the road courses and all that, I feel really good about it. I do feel pretty good about the summer months. There's things that we've been really working on at RCR to make our program better, make my car better, and get the feel that I need. And we just got to keep that progression going and try to, we're starting to get some good long run speed. We got to kind of get the short run speed back in it. And if we can kind of mend those 2 together, I think we're going to be really strong.
Austin, I want to ask you about something you said, and I'm using your words. You said rough patch, right? When you start the season the way you did, winning those 3 races, and then you said you hit kind of a rough patch. Obviously, when you're winning, everything seems great and grand and everyone's getting along, but what's the value of maybe struggling a little? And listen, 4th place finishes for a lot of people, it's not exactly struggling, but when you start the way that you did, I know that you want to continue that momentum. So what'd you guys kind of learn about each other during that quote-unquote rough patch?
I mean, the biggest thing is that we don't give up, and even though we've had some races that haven't really gone our way here the last few weeks, and not get the finishes that we thought that we should have gotten, we still are have the confidence in each other, keeping our head held high, and we feel like anywhere that we go to, every racetrack we go to, that we can win at, and we really feel that way. Everybody at RCR feels that way, that we can get the job done each and every week. It doesn't matter what racetrack it's at. So just having that trust factor and the confidence in each other goes a long way. And this being my 2nd season with RCR, I think that's what's kind of built this relationship with everyone, with Andy Street, the crew chief, and Mark, our engineer, Timmy, our car chief, and everybody else that are on this 21 team. So we're just going to keep digging, just keep fighting hard, trying to make our stuff better, and during these stages, trying to get better at these stage 1, stage 2. We want to get stage wins because that helps with the playoffs. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We really want to do a better job of trying to get some extra stage points going forward.
So, Austin, as I mentioned earlier, 3 wins in the first 5 races at 3 completely different racetracks. You got the win at Daytona, back-to-back February wins there, and then you came back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, really the only other mile and a half that we've been to earlier this year. And then you got the win at your home track, Atlanta Motor Speedway, a super speedway mile and a half track. So 3 wins in the first 5 races, but your biggest nemesis, John Hunter Nemechek, a Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing. It's almost like you two are just mirroring each other, only one separating the number of wins, top 5s, top 10s, stage wins. I mean, that right there, where you can't take your eye off anybody else, but that right there seems to be the biggest competition. You two guys have won 5 of the 11 races so far this year.
Yeah, Joe Gibbs Racing does a really good job preparing some fast cars on the racetrack, and John Hummer Nemechek is a really good race car driver. So, we're going toe-to-toe with them right now, and we're doing everything we need to stay up front, keep trying to get this regular season championship under wraps so we can get the 15 bonus points. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a fight all year. We just finished stage 1, and he was ahead of us there. So we've lost a little bit of points to him just already. So going into this second stage, whenever we get going, we got to do a better job of just trying to we're not really too worried about like racing the 20, and it's not like we want to. It's not like we're like, oh, where's the 20 at? If he has a bad pit stop or anything like that. But if he's in front of us, you know it, and you want to be in front of him anytime you can. So that's kind of our biggest thing that I'm focusing on right now is, they're going to be up front. So as long as we're up front, we're probably going to be battling for the win or a solid top 5.
Well, listen, man, it's been so much fun to watch you this season. You know I'm a fan. We love talking to you, and we can't wait to get you on a little bit more after those wins because more are just going to keep on coming. Hopefully, in this race out there at Charlotte, as soon as we get this baby in. Thanks for joining us, Austin.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I hate it for all the fans that are out here right now. There's a lot of fans in the stands still, just going against the weather. So yeah. I hope we get this thing in pretty quick and get some dry racing in and have a good finish to this Charlotte weekend, Memorial Day.
Well, don't change, Austin. You just leave that uniform on and stay close to that race car.
Can I get a go dogs before you go for Larry Mack?
That's right. Go dogs, Larry. Go dogs, Larry.
There you go. That's what I need. A little Georgia. All right, so we do have some news for you. The Xfinity Series race has been once again rescheduled for after the Cup race later tonight. So it sounds like Austin Hill can actually go and take that fire suit and those racing shoes off. It's going to be on FS2, and that will take place after the Coca-Cola 600. Obviously, we don't know what time that is. The Coca-Cola 600 is scheduled to start at 3 o'clock, but just depending on what happens with the weather out at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hill said it. Yeah, I hate it for the teams. I hate it for the drivers, but I hate it for our race fans. My gosh, they're the most dedicated fans in all of sports. They came back today, but you know what? At the end of the day, nobody has control of it. We're just trying to make the best we can of a really tough situation.
Yeah, and kudos to Marcus Smith, Greg Walter out at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and all the NASCAR staff. This isn't an easy decision. They've got so many factors to work with. Obviously, the Coke 600, they've got to get those cars through tech, on pit roads, set up the toolboxes, so there has to have a window to allow those teams to prepare and get ready. So certainly unfortunate that they'll have to push this Xfinity race a little bit further, but again, just another one of those things that the drivers are going to have to adjust and be ready to go.
And listen, I'm not just being optimistic, but when I woke up this morning and turned on my local news, like they said, it was going to clear out as the day went on. So that's what I anticipate
right
to
now.
happen.
There is nothing on the radar. It's just that heavy, dense mist fog that's just rolled in there.
Here's who I my heart goes out to is those crew guys. right? Because the drivers can go back to their motorhomes, they can go and relax. A lot of them can, right? There are crew guys that have been here now multiple days, sitting on the floors of the hauler, sitting on the floors of the garage. As a crew chief, what's your responsibility to kind of keep those guys as motivated and as comfortable as they possibly can for what's going to be another long day?
Well, David and I were talking. There's a lot of these pit crews. They're going to be pitting cars in the Coca-Cola 600s, so they still have a very long day in front of them. But when it comes to the road crew, we talked about it earlier. We have to get this Xfinity Series race in tonight, during the night, even if we bleed into the morning, because the logistics says it's just over 50 hours for these haulers to get to Portland, Oregon, where we race next weekend. They're probably all going to have to not only work on these cars today, they're going to have to go back to the shop, get everything unloaded, loaded up to get them head west.
Yeah, and Austin Hill was just talking about the point situation and racing hard for the stages. I can't express enough that it's so easy for a driver, a crew chief, even these pit crew members to almost just turn it down a notch. But when you have these rain delays, you're racing on a Monday, your mind is wandering, doing different things. One of my old crew chiefs, Jimmy Finning, whenever we raced on a Monday or it was a rain delay, he was so adamant on, hey, that this race is still important. You can't let your guard down because there's so much that goes into preparing. When we look back at this race in 3 weeks or 3 months, it's still going to be just as important if it ran on time yesterday.
And we can't forget about it.
All right, so you guys heard it right there from Shannon Spake in the studio at Charlotte. The NASCAR Xfinity Series race, we have gotten 48 laps in out of 200. It has been moved until after the Cup race. We were under red flag for the second time due to rain. So the plan is to stop, get the Xfinity cars off of pit lane, bring the Cup cars, maybe not onto pit lane right now because of the rain, but to bring the Cup equipment and stuff to their pit boxes wherever they're going to be pitted for this race. So this is going to be a long night for me. Oh my goodness. I have to work tomorrow. This is going to be brutal. I'm not going to be able to sleep. We're scheduled to have the NASCAR Cup Series race at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know if we're going to start that stream right at 2:30. It's going to be all rain dependent, so you'll have to bear with me on that. I'll keep you guys updated as the updates continue to come out. But again, our live commentary stream for the Cup Series race is kind of TBD at this point until we figure out exactly what the rain is like. There's no rain on the radar. There hasn't been all afternoon at the Charlotte/Concord, North Carolina area where the track is at. So there's really no way to predict exactly when the track is going to be dry enough for them to race. Again, there's nothing on the radar. It's just a misty rain, kind of similar to what we had at Texas a couple years ago. And it was in the Texas Fort Worth area for 2-3 days before they end up getting the race in on Wednesday. So hopefully that's not the same situation here. The plan is to do live commentary for the Cup Series race again whenever they can get the race in. And the Xfinity Series race will be on Fox Sports 2 after the Cup race is over. So we don't know what time that is going to exactly be. But you can plan being right here during the live commentary for the Xfinity Series race and the NASCAR Cup race. Hopefully you guys stay up late with me. We will see. But thanks everybody for watching this coverage. We will be back with this stream a little bit later. I guess we're going to have to end the stream. It's going to be on a separate stream later. But yeah, we will end this and then we will get that one up and running. So thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you for the Cup race here in a couple hours.